the bad guy.
I keep on striving for a better way of life. The devil's disguising, the earth's in turmoil and in strife. We are surviving, looking for the better days. Lord, protect our life, guide us closer to your light. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. I'm trying to run this race, I'm trying to finish in first place, and hear, well done my servant, oh.
Rip me out my chains, cuz I don't wanna be here. Thankful to the Father, I got eyes so I can see clear. Taught us that the sickness we inherit is hereditary. Reputation could be passed down to make us legendary. Seems as if the strong could bear the burden and we never weary. But the thoughts that cross my mind in real time is hella scary. When you die and meet your demise, they say you viraled in. But on the earth there's no checking in when niggas spiraling. The therapy the music tend to give us with the slightest pen or make the wind feel less destructive when we surviving it. I only enter into this music to remind you with hopes and wishes that this light I'm vibing with finds you. And even when the shade is great, push through, motherfucker, and shine through. Cause we the hope and the elect, I'm talking times two. We the hope, we the elect, I'm talking times two. And when it's all said and done, it's only you. In a dark place, they tried to eradicate the whole dog race. They took the earth by a hand and ripped the crown off the heads of the ones that own this land. And then they made a brand, they put cement over the bones and made businesses. And then they told us this was our home. And then they tried to replicate our religion and made it a clone. And then they told us we was wicked, but if we bowed to white Jesus, somehow we would receive forgiveness. Seeing the presence of our fathers on the top of all our wish lists. And even used shoes was wrapped and presented to us as gifted. We believed in a wooden cross. When we seen black stars on television, we stood in awe. Niggas that chop your legs down and ask how couldn't jaw. Anger misplaced for opportunity, then who wouldn't brawl? If it's all love, then why you niggas break your treaty? The hood ain't a place that's known to comfort, uplift the needy. But I got a shepherd in the valley and he leads me. When we get blessed, then it's true that we all eat. We come from the colleges and churches, some of us all street. Salvation, everything, my life is what it cost me. Warring against negative forces, get them off me. Standing on business, nigga, I'm on top of the ship. Battlefield uncertain, so I'm clutching the grip. I'm a warrior, never let my heart turn weak. Never let my pride triumph over the side of me that's meek. We the people of the creek, from the plains of the savannah. Passed down oral history, the sister of my grandma. Know that they witnessed the recollection and they can't stand you. We striving for a better day, more opportunities like better work and better pay. To live in liberty and know the Lord and not the devil's way. If you understand, rock to this, let the letter play. Cause the doors are open, so you know we seek a better way. Striving for a better life.
He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. I'm trying to run this race, I'm trying to finish in first place, and here, well done my servant, oh. Ya Baraka, Ya Baraka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Waya Shamach, Waya Shamach, Yahweh, 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 Panyawa al Yak, Panyawa al Yak, Waya Chanka, Waya Chanka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yasha'ayah, Yasha'ayah. Panyawa al Yak, Panyawa al Yak, Wayasham, Wayasham, Laka Shalom, Laka Shalom, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yasha Allah, Yasha Allah.
Oh,
Okay. I might be my panya makudam. This is Mark chapter 12 and verse 29. Yahweh shall answer them. The first of all commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is the Lord. Shemaya Allah, Yahweh, Elohayinawa, Yahweh, Achad, Aman.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
So before I start class, I just want to say shout outs to Yawasop for the past debate that he did, getting real surgical. And definitely shout outs to Kasadia for a powerful class that he taught last Wednesday. Mighty class, man. So I just want to shout those brothers out. So, you know, today class, how do I say it? Class is going to be about today. Class is geared more towards the sisters. You know, a lot of times, you know, we have a plethora of teachers here in Rum, and most times classes are fed. Who end up getting fed is the brothers. You know, there's certain teachers, myself, Shy, you know, Gawar, and now other brothers, you know, are gearing classes towards sisters. But I think there is an extreme importance and an obligation, you know what I'm saying, a duty to teach classes directly to the sisters. You can't have a nation without women. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, sisters, you know, they're transitioning from the world to coming into the understanding, still dealing with a lot of the same issues that, you know, they was dealing with in the world. They can't find their footing. They can't find their place. They don't understand. They don't know their value, right? They don't, if they do have, you know, a husband or a family, or if they don't, they may know their duties impartial, right? And I think too, one thing that isn't relayed is, you know, how does, you know, the Most High, you know, see his daughters, you know, and in turn, how are we as men, as brothers, as fathers, as husbands, how are we supposed to go about, you know, inspiring, teaching, guiding, loving, being patient with, you know, our ribs, you know, our sisters, our daughters, you know what I'm saying? And so I think this is a class, hopefully, where brothers and sisters could be edified. And but this class is definitely, you know, geared for women, for the sisters, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to make that known. Colin? So let's gonna open up with what's time actually writing in the notebook. My class. I'm always looking on the phone, yeah. So I said, nah, let me write it out. I'm gonna go 1 Peter 3:7.
This is 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge.
Right. So it says, likewise, ye husbands. This is not just for husbands. This is for brothers too. Right. There's single brothers. There's single sisters in the body of Yahweh Shai. So it's not just for husbands. Right. when you come across sisters, right? When you come across your rib, you dwell with her according to knowledge, right? Now, this is multifaceted. A lot of people say, well, what is the knowledge? The knowledge of the law. Well, of course, that's part of it, right? Of course, that's part of it, right? But I want to highlight something. Read the next line.
Giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel.
So it says, giving honor unto the wife as the weaker vessel, right? So when we jump back up to the first line, it says, dwell with your ribs, or dwell with these sisters, right, in the body, tend to them, look after them, guide them, lead them according to knowledge. And then the next line says, honor them as they are the weaker vessel. Of course, what are you leading with, right? You're leading with, and I say this, right, without dealing too much in the, so we understand the law is foundational, right? But once you graduate, you understand how to walk after the Spirit, right? Because Yahweh Shai, right, is within you. So that's where you're leading your woman from, right? But there's an understanding, right? There's a compassion that doesn't get talked about enough. When you're compassionate, does anybody know what the synonym word for compassion is?
Empathy.
Right. To sympathize, empathize, it means to understand. Right. And so when you're honoring your woman as the weaker vessel, or sisters, right? Or for, it don't have to be wives. Not everybody's at that stage yet. Could be girlfriends, right? Or somebody you're courting. Your understanding of their plight. You're taking a lot. You're analyzing this individual, and you're understanding. And when you understand, right, what ends up happening? You end up growing more what? How okay, I'm asking a better question. When you're understanding of somebody, what does it help you do with their shortcomings? Be patient with them, right? It helps you to be patient. You may have standards and expectations, right? And it is your job to help inspire, change, build, pour into one another. But because you understand their plight, because you understand this creature, right, who's opposite than you, your patience grows more. Is everybody following me so far? Okay. So one thing that I want to do, hopefully I could bring this full circle. I want to go into history, right? And I want to talk about, a lot of things that happened to our people as a whole. But I want to primarily focus on the sisters. But the thing is, you're gonna be able to see our plight as well, right? If I go into history about the sisters, you there too. You know what I'm saying? But there's a reason why I'm focusing on them. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, especially what's going on now, is a lot of brothers, they're overwhelmed, right? Things is happening one after the other, one after the other. Inflation's going up. Being broke is a real thing. Like being broke it makes you bitter. It makes you bitter. The cost. I remember this is last year. Not the year before that. We was going on a swap mission, and you went into the store, the convenience store. I forgot where we was driving to. It was a little thing. Yeah, it was a little thing of fruits.
It was $10.
It was $10 for a little baby thing of fruit. So you can't even stretch $10 anymore. Like the other day, me and my rib was joking about the fact that there used to be specials with pizza. Like it used to come with 2 slices and a can of soda. That was like for $3. With chips. With chips. That was a nice little meal to hold you. But now that costs you probably like $15. So especially those of us who has big families, You're stressed out. You're looking at your children. You're like, dang, yo. You know what I'm saying? I got to get more snacks. They're eating the snacks like crazy. They just ate. Why they asking for more food again? So there's so many things going on. Your car's breaking down. You don't even know if you got enough money to last for food and gas for the week. Gas is killing brothers.
Bi-weekly pay.
And so when you come home, you're taking all your frustrations out. You have to be patient at work. You have annoying coworkers. You have people you have to deal with, the supervisors annoying you. You're trying to talk to them patient, but you're cussing them out intelligently, so that way you don't lose your job. But at the same way, you're not getting disrespected. And then guess what happens? You come home and your rib tries to connect, or she's dealing with the same thing, and there's friction. Right? You guys are in a limbo where you can't get past, you can't evolve, you can't continue to grow. There's always has to be forward movement and trajectories within our relationships, within ourselves. Right? We're at a standstill, and the things that are deeply rooted within us because of these times are now starting to come to the surface. So brothers is getting in a weakened state, sisters are getting in a weakened state, and for lack of better words, now you're showing your rear. Right? You're getting a weakened state, now you're in your thoughts. Now you're down. Now you're depressed. Right? Certain behaviors are starting to come up. Right? Certain things that bother you from time to time are starting to come up. Why? Because now you're in a different season. And men and women deal with their seasons and the things that are in them internally 2 different ways. 2 different ways. As a man, who is your head? Yahweh Shah is your head. That's your everything. Brothers be trying to muscle it, and guess what? I'm guilty of that too. You really think you're out here strong? You're not strong. You're not strong. What the scriptures tell you? Through your weakness, the Lord's strength is made manifest. So that means in times of distress, in times of your depression, in times of when you're being overwhelmed, who are you supposed to go to? We forget that. We forget to humble ourselves. We forget to be vulnerable. And so we're stressed out. We're trying to muscle things. And guess what happens? We're being partial with the Lord. Not only being partial with the Lord, but we're not treating our ribs the way that they need to be treated. Right? And then it's like, sisters, y'all are playing hopscotch with y'all head, with y'all husbands, because things is not right. You don't know what to communicate. Y'all getting bickering, like everything's off. Or it don't even need to be all that. You're just not in the best place. This is the season for triumphing. This is the season for healing. We talk about it time and time again. It is important that we confess our faults to the Father. A lot of brothers and sisters are scared. I use this example all the time. If somebody smacks the heck out of you in your face, and they go to do it again, 2 things is going to happen. Either you're going to block it,
Yes, sir,
or you're going to dodge it. Why? Because you do not want to experience that pain again. You don't want to go through it. But guess what? This is the thing I love. This is the crazy thing. This is the thing I love. When it comes to confession, guess what? There's no way around it. The same things that you're running from, the same traumas that you have deeply rooted in you, right? The same things that burden you, guess what you have to do? You have to go back and face it again. That's the only way you're going to overcome this. That's the only way you're going to make peace with it. It's getting to a point where things are happening so much that it's like there's a ticking time bomb or a time limit for you to deal with yourself. We have to learn how to look within. And if you don't know how to look within, if you don't know how to seek peace within yourself, if you don't know how to go on that journey, you seek and you ask for counsel. Because this is the thing. What do you think renewing the mind is all about?
Renewing the inward man.
It don't matter how old you get, 40, 50, 60, 70, you have an inner child that you got to make peace with.
Yep.
And guess what? That inner child talks to you every day. Every day that inner child talks to you. You may be suppressing parts of yourself. Nobody knows. You know. You're the one that's taking that short because you don't want to deal with yourself. You're putting up barriers. You have self-defense mechanisms. You're putting up walls that you have not readdressed in a long time. We have to not only, let me tell y'all something, right? We have a very, very, very hard job. Before I go into this history, we have a very, very hard job. There's so much that we have to overcome and then be an example for. Not only, which I'm going to go into all these things, not only, right, do you have to be forgiven for your ancestors' sins and the repercussions of those sins, right? Because it's genetic, right? Curses and trauma, which I'm going to show, is genetic. It can be genetically passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. So not only do you have to look within yourself and make sure you're okay and make peace with that, but guess what also happens? Didn't you come through your mother's womb through this in this earth and you was molded and shaken up in iniquity? Everybody's dealt a different card. Everybody has grown up in a different household. So not only do you have to heal and make peace with that, your upbringing. And I'm going to state this again. 80% of who you are in your adult life stems from your childhood. It tells you to mortify your members. What do you think that he's talking about? And then Solomon was talking about, in Wisdom of Solomon, the reasonings of men. What do you think the reasonings of men is? It's how the mind works. It's the psyche. It's psychology. Study the reasonings of men, how the mind works. Why? Why is that important? There's no way you're going to renew your mind if you're not on a journey to make peace with that inner child. And that starts with confessing. And that starts with accountability. And that starts with honesty. You have to be real with yourself. There's so much things that we went through. So much. You have to understand, right? Through everything that we've been through, right? It's hard. It's hard to hear that the kingdom of heaven's in you. You laugh at that. You be like, yo, all right, Father, I know this is true because it's your word, but I'm surrounded by hell. Like, my condition is insane right now. When I look out the window, when I look in the news, when I'm looking at my family, when I'm dealing with myself, it's just hell. We may have good little ups and downs, but guess what? As soon as the ups come, the downs are coming immediately. So you're like, yo, I understand that the kingdom of heaven is in me, but yo, it's hard to see that right now. That's a real thing. People don't talk about that. So, but not realizing at the same time while you're in that state of mind, that you know that it takes the spirit of a redeemer, of your savior, of your deliverer, who's been here before, pleading to the Father. I know what they go through. Give her another chance. They're trying to get it right. We are anointed to pull our people out of their conditions. It takes the patience of a redeemer who understands what you've been through to bring you to where the Father wants you to be. That's the end game. That's what he has in store for us. We're not realizing it. This is not the last stop. That's why we say you're not a finished product. But when you have when we say that, you have to understand. He knows you intimately. He knows you personally. He's saying, look, Father, he's falling because of this, this, and this. Give him another chance. I got my counselor on the way to him. I got a brother on the way to him. Or to her. She's falling to this. She's doing this. She doesn't know how to be. She does not know how to be. She lived a life of harlotry. And you called her up to be greater than she is. Give her some time, Father. That's what that's what intercessing is, yo. Give her some time. Let her work it out. She's in a home with a man who loves her, but she don't know how to be a home to her husband. She has kids for this man. She's learning to love this man, but she don't know how to make her home a wellness center, how to create that atmosphere. She don't know how to be in harmony. So many things have happened to her on the way up to be with this man. So many bumps and bruises. We don't know how to deal with certain things. So what our brain does, because it hates pain, is it creates things in order for us to cope with it.
Right.
Then we fall towards addiction of alcohol, greed. We may overeat. We may fornicate. We may smoke. Excuse me. We may lie. That may be somebody's thing, lying. The Lord does not want us to suppress the godliness in us anymore. We have to allow it to come out. We have to learn how to allow ourselves to shine. So that way, when we walk, everybody can feel the presence of Yahweh Shai within us when we're walking to the store, when we're walking to the gym, when we're going to work, when we're in our home. I should be able to feel the presence of the Lord in my woman, and she should be able to feel the presence of the Lord in me.
Good Lord.
That's the harmony. Because brothers don't know, didn't have any self of control, they want to order. You're not supposed to put shackles on your woman. But you don't trust her. You don't trust her because of issues that you dealt with. So in slavery, you have this term, post-traumatic slave syndrome. It goes to what I was talking about. In our people, post-slavery, suffering from the mental trauma, the mental breaking, the damaging that we have to deal with, not for decades, for centuries. And they have not allowed us to properly heal, right? So not only do you have to heal from that in your own upbringing, but you have to be an example for those that's coming in behind you. Do you understand the load and the burden that's on you, each and every single one of you? And people want to call Yahweh Shai big bro? Stop that, please. That's what's that called? A PSA announcement? Right?
Yeah.
Please stop calling Yahweh Shai big bro. That's a lack of respect and a lack of understanding for who he is, what he's done, what he's doing. So before we get that, I just want to prove real fast. They did a project. I'm not going to get the whole video. It was a really long video. The general and actually Yawasop had brought it out, but it's just a real short clip telling you scientifically what happens in the when they tested rats to let you know that we suffer generational trauma through what our ancestors went through. Apayat, if you can, play that first.
It was a research project that was done over the course of, 10, 15 years. And it was done on rats. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but done on rats. And they conditioned the rats not to exit a cage. So they had the cage, they had the door open, but every time they got close to the door, they would get zapped. And then they would retreat. And then after a course of time, then they started to reproduce. These rats started to reproduce, which was by design.
Offspring inherited that fear.
Their offspring were moved to different cage where the door was left open and there was no zapping, and they just never even walked towards the gate. They just knew it was that conditioning that transfers through your DNA, which is a real thing. And people are only now just discovering that generational trauma passes just in the natural course of things, right? In your DNA, it's there, it's in your head. So it's people are like, oh, you can change, or you can.
It's okay, you can pause it.
A research project that was done over the course of.
The next one I do need to hear. I need to hear, but it's just proven that they tested rats, and the first generation of rats, they put a door, and every time the rats went towards the door, it shocked them. So they had children. The rats had children. They put them in a whole nother cage, and they left the door open. And the rats never went. Those new generation of rats never went towards the door at all because of what their ancestors or what their parents went through every time they touched the door, proving that generational trauma exists. Khan, are y'all with me? But the next video that I need you to play, there's timestamps, and I need to hear what she's saying.
This is the Fair Use and Copyright Act. Copyright law states that fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, or research, is not an infringement of copyright.
I'm glad that you emphasize that.
Shabbat gets it.
There's a kind of a fundamental basis for post-traumatic slave syndrome. How many of you are familiar with post-traumatic stress disorder? Okay, so these are things, I mean, most of you are people who are in the field that have done the work. You're here representing the people who are really in the trenches, and I appreciate and respect that. The theory very often, when people hear it, post-traumatic slave syndrome, I try to kind of get at kind of what's going on in the room. There's ambivalence, there's feelings of, you know what, come on now, what are we saying now about the slavery thing? It's over. You know, get over it. You know, we're done. We have that kind of feeling. And how possibly is she drawing a connection between something that happened so long ago in contemporary society? You know, come on, are you trying to find an excuse? Are you trying to blame people? You know, these are the natural kind of knee-jerk reactions to hearing the term post-traumatic slave syndrome. However, I would submit to you that, you know, it's based on research. So I did about 6 years of research specifically looking at violence. My area of focus is violence, and I'll cover that in my PowerPoint. Also, some of you may not be able to see points of the PowerPoint, but we're going to make it available to you, so you don't have to worry about it. There's a website where you'll be able to download my PowerPoint. Isn't that correct? Did I say that right? Okay, so that part you don't have to worry about. But I kind of want to set the ground so that we can all advance and move forward together. Now, the reason I do that and the reason why I began that way is because there's an assumption, a fundamental assumption in a room this size with people very well educated, people very well exposed, that we're all entering this discussion at the same level. And we are not. I can guarantee you we are not. We all have our ideas and our beliefs, and then we all have our experience. For example, the people of color that are in the room, all the people of color that are in this room are arriving in this room at a different level because they have lived in this skin. And we're rarely given any kind of appreciation or understanding of what you have to live with walking through the world with this skin. You kind of come in at a
right. So she's taking a little bit long, but I did watch the whole video. She's gonna introduce herself, but she's a doctor. She studied social science, and like she just said, her primary focus was violence. So that's her credential. She's a doctor. You know, she got her PhD in that. I want you to jump to the timestamp 37 minutes and 37 seconds. Like, oh my Lord. Play when you're ready.
Found out how hard folks worked in the sugar plantations. Ooh-wee, I got humbled by how hard folks in the Caribbean were worked. But what I decided to do is I looked at the Library of Congress. Most of my work over the 9 years that it took to write the book, 6 years of that was research. The other part of it had to do with doing interviews of elders and reading slave narratives, and there are thousands of them. This is just one taken from the Library of Congress. Sarah Gudger from North Carolina wrote, "Never known nothing but work, never knew rest, felt like my back was going to break. This the gospel truth." Then I looked at what happened in the sugar plantations, and this was amazing. One final set of grim numbers underlines the way slaves on sugar plantations like Codrington, was a plantation in Barbados, were systematically worked to an early death. When slavery ended in the United States, slaves imported over the centuries had grown to a population of nearly 4 million. When it ended in the British West Indies, total slave imports of well over 2 million left a surviving slave population of only about 670,000. More than twice as many slaves were shipped to the island of Jamaica alone than all 13 North American colonies combined. The Caribbean was a slaughterhouse. In fact, the reason why there was more importation of slaves to these plantations is because They died so frequently. They were treated so badly, ate so poorly that females never reached their menstrual cycles. They never actually started their menstrual cycles, so they couldn't reproduce, you see. And so many of them died. They had to import more. That's how treacherous it was.
So we heard that, right? So, you know, there was a vast difference between, you know, how the slaves in the Americas was working versus, and they was working hard. Our people was working hard, but then the Caribbean, you just heard us say that we died frequently. They had to continue to import slaves to the Caribbean islands because of how hard we was working. Our diet, we was malnourished, and to the point where women did not have their menstrual cycles. You have to think, right? And this is not, I'm going to keep saying this. This is not happening. This is not a year. It's not 2 years. This is going on for centuries. So you have to think, right, of the damage. Some of the women weren't even having babies due to the fact that they was working so much, they were malnourished. I just want everybody to walk with me for a second and imagine this in your mind. Right? This is the brutality and the inhumane crimes that they was doing against us in these times. Is everybody with me? Okay. Continue.
Lazy black folks. Isn't that ironic, though? What's so ironic is black people run from the shame of feeling like they're perceived as lazy. I mean, I live with that so much that when I would go to hotels, I would leave it cleaner because everybody's mother taught you, leave it cleaner than you found it. So black folks are so hypersensitive. I was cleaning up the hotel room because I wouldn't want anyone to think I'm dirty, right? Now, other people in the audience that are of color, how much harder did your parents tell you you had to work to?
Okay, one phone. Okay, can you jump to 44-minute timestamp?
A vaginal speculum is a device designed to open up the vagina.
I just want everybody to take into consideration, like, you know, like as he's saying this information, try to put yourself there, right? You know what you deal with right now on a day-to-day. Imagine dealing with this every day, 365 days a year, right? Then for hundreds of years. And you wasn't able to feel what you was going through. You wasn't able to express what you were going through. So what was building up is the psychological damage, the mental damage, and the physical damage that was going on within you. You didn't have nobody to come to your aid, especially the sisters. Imagine you being married to a man and you have kids with this man, and they bring him out and they tie him to two horses. They tie him to two horses so you can see him get literally torn apart while your back is getting broke from work, while you're getting whooped, while you're malnourished. You have now you can't trust on your man to do what? Protect you, secure you. So what does that psychologically do to a woman's psyche? It teaches her to coddle her son, to handicap her son. She cannot inspire. She cannot push her son to be a what? A man. Because if that is the outcome of what my son has to deal with, I'd rather him be a mama's boy. And what happens to the sister? What happens to her, the daughter? She ends up growing up to be what? Independent, working hard, taking care of the household, going to provide. Don't let no man rule you. Don't let no man rule over you. And then you're gonna hear she's gonna say it. But what they used to say is we were promiscuous, we were immoral. And then that's while they was raping our women. So as they're being raped, like for years, for centuries, they're being told they're promiscuous, raped. So in order to deal with that, what type of defense mechanisms do you come up with in your mind? You start to be promiscuous. Because you do not want to fathom the pain, the trauma, right? Of being raped every day after you work 16 hours. And the white man is disgusting.
Disgusting.
He's disgusting. Go ahead, continue. Pause.
Vagina. It was considered one of the most important advancements in medicine that was made. He was credited as being the wealthiest wealthiest physician to have ever lived. And what's interesting about him, look at the medals pinned on him. I was just very curious about how it was they regarded this man, because no one ever really looked at how did he come up with that vaginal speculum. The way he did it was he actually worked on unanesthetized, did experiments on unanesthetized slave women. He created a makeshift hospital in his backyard in the mid-80s.
Yo, so first of all, the utensil that they use is what they use now. He came up with it. The way he came up with it is by spoons. First of all, and you know he didn't wash the spoons. And these slave women who he experimented on did not ask to be experimented on. He said what she's gonna say, that they did not feel no pain. He was opening up their vagina to the max. This is Esau we're talking about.
Because there weren't medical tables back then, he used his colleagues to hold them down while he was doing the experiments.
But they don't feel no pain. These are the inhumane things that was going on. Right? And look at the things that was happening to our sisters. They couldn't even have menstrual cycles. Menstrual cycles is extremely important for women. It's extremely important for women. Imagine on a hormonal level what those women were going through. That's not even talked about. You know that it's complex for a woman. Us, we get older, all we gotta do, hey, testosterone, get up in the gym, cool, you good. Women, it's complex. They need progesterone, the right amount of estrogen, the right amount of testosterone. You gotta make sure the thyroid's good, the insulin. They're complex. They couldn't even have menstrual cycles back then because of how hard they were working. So if they couldn't have menstrual cycles because of how hard they were working, imagine how crazy their hormones was going in their body. Why isn't that talked about?
How moody they probably got, like the mood.
They wasn't even allowed to be moody. Why isn't that talked about? And then here comes this devil who comes and opens up our women's vaginas with 2 spoons. Let me paint the picture better for you. He was cranking and opening the vagina of a woman. And you know what he was doing? He was trying to, that's where you probably get the term fisting from. And I'm not being funny. He was sticking his hands, shots, needles, whatever he can do. That's how your enemy thinks. This is what our woman was going through. And guess what? That built up resentment. We wasn't coming to save him. Well, guess what was happening to us?
Same thing.
A buck breaking and all of that. We wasn't able to protect our women. And now, fast forward to modern day, they're like, this, y'all not gonna protect me. Y'all are whips, y'all are soft. That's how all this is coming. All this is coming to fruition. You can't do this for me. You can't provide for me. Look at what's going back then. Look at what he did back then. And then how they're pushing that agenda too. So not only, just like Shamach said, the devil, our enemy, knows the little things he can do as triggers. He presses on triggers and he expects that behavior. Then he gets a behavior out of us. We're so far from the harmony that we're supposed to be in with one another. We could not tend or care or save or protect our sisters in these times. You have a different ability than our men have a different ability than our women. What type of creatures are women?
Feminine. Delicate.
Say it again.
Feminine.
What?
Delicate.
Delicate. What else? It's a key word that I want.
Gentle.
It's like chaotic.
Starts with an E.
Emotional.
Emotional. So imagine what they carry and what they're passing down. What they carry and what they're passing down. What they carry and what they're passing down through each generation that's being born. That's not settled. You can imagine, right? The walls that's being built up, right? The not being able to put yourself in the moment, to escape, to go somewhere else, so that way you won't feel what's going on to you while you're being raped, while you're being experimented on. So what does that do to the next generation? Remember, I just showed in the beginning of the class, the rats, how their parents, when they went towards the door, they got shocked. And the children of those parents who, when they went to the door, got shocked, they was in a whole other separate room or tank with the door wide open. They didn't even think about going through the door. So imagine us, and this is happening for centuries to us. You have a different capability, brothers, to bear, and so does women. But I want you to understand, right? What do we open up with? What chapter and verse did we open up with? And what does it say?
Likewise, ye husbands.
Likewise, ye husbands, ye brothers, right? What?
Dwell with them.
Dwell with them.
According to knowledge.
According to what?
According to knowledge.
It's not just talking about the law, it's an understanding. It's an understanding. There's a reason why we're not able to connect the way we should be connecting with our women. And this doctor that she's going over is world renowned.
He's known as the father of gynecology, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
There's a statue of him in New York.
There's a statue of him for the inhumane crimes that he was doing to our women.
No, nah. Nah.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Is that a form? I'm asked. Is that a form of learned helplessness?
What do you mean?
Learned helplessness. Learned helplessness. They had 2 dogs, and then one side, the dog was shot all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So they put 2 levers in the 2 things,
Mm-hmm.
and they trained the dogs to every time he shot, they hit the lever. The new dog, every time he got shot, they hit the lever. But the other dog that was shocked all the time, he didn't even bother. He was always shocked. So he didn't even bother to push the lever down to stop the shock. He was shocked all the time.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, but the difference is it's getting
A form.
no. I'm just saying what's happening is it's being passed down through generations. And that's the crazy thing. Imagine being born with conditions based off of what your parents or your grandparents or your great-great-grandparents went through.
So it's genetically passed.
It's genetically passed down.
Doesn't elephants have that?
Yeah. It's genetically passed down. And the more that we went through, the more severe the trauma that we had to face in the condition that we had to go through. But while we're going through this, we have to be aware. We have to start being aware. If you're not aware of the things that's going on within your mind, that's troubling your mind, your spirit, then how are you going to heal from it? Right? Go ahead and play that up here.
He built the first vaginal speculum from a pewter spoon. And he reasoned that slave women were able to bear great pain, meaning we don't need any anesthesia, because their race made them more durable and thus they were well suited for painful medical experimentation. We didn't even, because we didn't feel like other women could feel. This man would cut into women, cut into them, and just said, well, since they're Black, they don't really feel it. Unbelievable. And more importantly is what he did to infants, because not only did he experiment on women, he also experimented on infants. He said that Black infants suffered from something he called trimus nascentium, which is now commonly referred to as neonatal tetanus. Neonatal tetanus originates in horse manure, which was a likely cause of the disease in slave infants. He attributed it to the indecency and intellectual flaws of slave infants, together with skull malformations at birth. That is a shoemaker's awl. And that's an 1800s shoemaker's awl. He would stick that into the heads of brand new infants in an effort to realign their skulls based on the
It's crazy. He not only was performing inhumane, disgusting experiments on our women, he went on to the infant child. Look at the awl. Look at the shoemaker's awl. He was blaming an infection or disease based on the uncleanliness of how Esau kept his plantation, right? On quote unquote the underdevelopment of slave children. And so what he would do to try to adjust this or cure this, look at the shoemaker's awl. He would stick that in the newborn's head. Now, I want you guys to real quick just imagine what's going on. So she's being overworked to the point where she's having no menstrual cycle. she's being experimented on to where she's suffering crazy amounts of pain. That's really unbearable. But hey, she don't go through pain because of this color of her skin. She's also being cut into. And the joy of life, right? It tells you in scriptures that a woman will travail in pregnancy to get to what? The joy of bringing forth life. They cannot at this point even have joy of bringing forth infant children because you have devils like this who sticking shoemakers' awls in infants' heads. And majority of them, 90%, she's about to say it, die. I was searching so hard because whenever you're about to prove something, it has to be credible. You know what I'm saying? And I found I was very close, but I didn't get it. That's why I did not put it in this lesson. I have a strong theory that postpartum that happens in women has a lot to do with slavery.
It makes a lot of sense.
I searched so hard. I'm trying to tell you, I was searching for weeks and I could not find it. I got very, very close, but it wasn't enough.
Too much sense.
But if you think about it, if you're in this place in your life where all you're experiencing is the harsh reality, is hell, really. You're being overworked, you're not being fed enough, your hormones are going haywire because you're not even able to regulate it. You're being experimented on. Some of you are dying because of the unbearable pain. And when you're bringing forth children, you're depressed because look at what they're doing. You're not even getting to enjoy the baby. You went through the sufferings, right, in enduring pregnancy for 9 to 10 months, only for your child to die from this devil's experimenting on them.
Good.
Is everybody following me?
Ah,
Is everybody following me? Put a comment in the chat if you're following me. It gets better too. Press play.
Indecency and intellectual flaws of their parents to treat the malady. Of course, it was 100% death rate. But that's what he would stick in the head of a baby at birth. And so these are things that are so horrific that you can't possibly wrap your head around it. And this man is, just Google him. And I think to myself, if I were up here in front of you right now, and this is going to become very important as I move into the other slides. If I stomped a puppy to death up here, just a little puppy, and stomped it right here to death in front of you, most of you would need therapy. And I would be arrested probably faster than killing a black man for killing a puppy. How could you do that? Do you realize how much dissonance you have to remove in order to stick that into the brain of a child? More importantly, the child can no longer be human. Are you understanding what I'm saying? The reason why he could do it is they weren't human. They didn't even feel pain. That's what this man believed. Now, you may look at that and go, those are horrific things from the past. There's a book out right now, not table reading. It's called Medical Apartheid. This is written by Harriet Washington, came out last year. This book chronicles the experimentation on Black people up to contemporary day. See, we want to look at the Tuskegee experiments. We want to look at Sims and go, oh, that just still going on. Implicated, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, because we weren't what? Human. So that dehumanization is something that we really got to appreciate. Went on for a long time. Can you go back? Back one more. No white could ever rape a slave woman. The regulations of law as to the white race on the subject of sexual intercourse do not and cannot, for obvious reasons, apply to slaves. Their intercourse is promiscuous. We've now justified raping Black women because they can't be raped. We aren't raping them. They're
right. So look at. So now there's laws in place where there's no such thing. You will not be convicted by law for raping women, the slaves. There's no such thing. And they said they're promiscuous by nature. They're immoral and promiscuous. So that gives you the right to sexually abuse them every day, repeatedly. I want sisters, you gotta put yourselves, and brothers, please try to put yourselves, imagine this, what's going on. Right?
can't be raped. We aren't raping them. They're promiscuous by nature. So we can't do it. Forward, one more. The fact that white men could profit from raping their female slaves does not mean that their motive was economic. The rape of slave women by their masters was primarily a weapon of terror that reinforced whites' domination over their human property. Rape was an act of physical violence designed to stifle Black women's will to resist and to remind them of their servile status. These become important instruments that you look at. And I want to give you some statistics as it relates to American history. By the mid-1800s, there was over 600,000 mixed race children born. 600,000. How many of you know what miscegenation is? Miscegenation is an illegal marriage between people of different races. Actually, it was very profound here. That was illegal to marry someone of another race. So when you consider the fact that one of the greatest issues and one of the number one reasons why Black men were lynched, beaten, and imprisoned had to do with the fear that they were going to rape whom? White women. Now the numbers, I mean, we're talking about pure numbers alone. It was who being raped? Okay, it was Black women being raped, but they can be raped. Let's advance forward. Before we get into the Casual Killing Act, the Casual Killing Act was written because of the number of people.
Oh, yeah, jump to an hour and 15 minutes.
I've never been in the life. Okay, I work with adolescent, adult, male and female prostitutes as a case manager counselor. Okay, and during that time that I worked with folks, it was very interesting to see the perspectives and the behaviors and the attitudes that people had about prostitutes. I mean, when folks want to be, if you want to start off as a serial killer, just go kill the prostitutes. Nobody cares. But they don't even CSI don't investigate the prostitute slayings, right? But when we begin to see what's been happening with particularly women of color, you know, just historically, women of color have been fodder for white men. Now, what started in the backwoods or in the cabin with the slaves It never went away, you know. And I want to speak to this because this is a tough one to swallow too. But imagine they did a study back in the 80s, and they asked men across the board, cross races, if you could get away with sexually assaulting a woman, raping a woman, in other words, and there's no possible way that you'll get, you know, penalized for it. Do you ever get, how many of you would consider doing it? This is just regular Joe, go to work with the kids. 70%, 70, said if I could do it, I would do it. Imagine being able to do that for a couple hundred years with impunity. Imagine, you don't have to worry about, you know, you talk about pedophilia and all that. Imagine being able to buy that. And then you could beat it to death too and get another one. I know it's tough to wrap your head around, but what happens to an appetite created like that? Where you could rape a Black woman anytime you wanted to, and it wasn't considered rape because she was promiscuous. Hundreds of years. We're not talking about a few years, hundreds of years, protected by the law.
Like, you really gotta let that sink in. You can buy underage children, do whatever you want to them, beat them to death, buy another one. You can rape women, Black women, slave women, whenever you wanted to, and not get penalized by the law because they're promiscuous. And this happened for hundreds of years. Play the next video. You're gonna hear some redundancy, but she goes into certain things that I wanted to bring out too. In the meantime, while he's getting that, get 28 and 32.
Deuteronomy chapter 38, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Hold on, it says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Look at us. Look at the way we was given unto another people. Of course, for our disobedience, but look at what they did. It says they furthered their affliction. Sticking shoemaker awls in infant children's heads, 100% mortality rate, 100%. Buying little girls so you can have intercourse with them. And you know Esau, he's doing everything to this little girl. With his disgusting behind. Like, you have to really understand and like try to fathom what we went through. Especially our sisters. They couldn't rely on us. Jump down to 41.
Verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters.
Oh, was that did you finish that? No, you didn't finish that. 32. Continue.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look,
and thy eyes shall look,
and fail with longing for them.
Fail with longing for them. After you just had this baby you carried for 9-10 months, and you're longing for your child. But it's failing because you know you can do nothing. You can't do nothing. You're powerless. You're helpless. Meanwhile, your baby's getting stuck in the head with a shoe awl, man. Or getting bought so to fill this man's sexual desires. Boys too. Think about the trauma and the atrocity and the damage and destruction that's done to our people over time and time and time. Think about what we have to carry. Continue.
And it fell with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
And you shall be helpless. Jump down to 41.
Verse 41, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
No, we didn't understand. We didn't understand that that our enemy would be this. Just right. Diabolical is the word. Go ahead. I'll play the second video.
Looking menacingly at a white woman. Vagrancy, loitering, 10, 15 years for that. Here's the kicker. 25% of people under convict lease died, more than during slavery, because you don't kill off your property that you need to work for you. But they didn't have any protections because they have another label, do they not? And when you go to press the subject to people, what must you do?
Started at 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Creation of the first vaginal speculum, which he made from a pewter spoon. Sims had built a makeshift hospital in his backyard where he conducted surgical experiments on unanesthetized African slave women. Sims reasoned that slave women were able to bear great pain because their race made them more durable, and thus they were well suited for painful medical experimentation. So this is someone who took an oath to do no harm. And he cut into black women without any anesthesia. Now let me kind of get close with you around why this becomes very important. J. Marion Sims becomes very important because the first question I asked was, first of all, where do all the women come from? How did he get them? And what the problem was is it would be said that these women were not fit for duty by their slave masters. And here's why they weren't fit for duty. Many of the women suffered from what was called a fistula. An obstetric fistula is the breakdown of tissue in the vaginal wall, frequently as a result of childbirth, which affects the bladder and or the rectum. The disorder causes leakage of urine and feces into the vagina, which made for a smelly and humiliating existence for the women. However, this condition did not preclude these slave women from participating in their daily work on the plantation, such as picking cotton, house cleaning, cooking, etc. So what duty were the women then unfit for? The obvious answer is that while black slaves...
So you heard that. What do you think this devil was doing to our women? While they was doing all of that, I don't want to go there, so I need you guys to use your imagination. He was pleasing himself with our women, let's just say, in every way possible.
Anything you want.
Anything he wanted, to the point where the feces in the vagina is, first of all, it's not supposed to mix because that could cause infections, it could cause them smell. That's what was happening to our women.
He said it did not stop them from doing the daily work on the plantation.
That's what was going on. That's what was going on to our women.
And when my boys came over, good job. Okay. The friends come over.
So all of this, remember the science experiment with the rats. Passed down to generation,
Crazy.
to generation, to generation. This was what's going on with our women. Go ahead, play it.
Black to sexually serve their slave masters. Their malodorous condition made them less sexually desirable, and thus they were unfit for duty. So you need to clean them up, Mary and Sam, so we can do them. But what's more important about this is how we justify. Remember, in order to oppress or subjugate, you have to justify that behavior. But it wasn't only the women that suffered under his reign. Could you show the all, please? Slavery were not the only group to suffer. Black infants represent the most innocent of Sem's victims. Black infants suffered from what he termed trismus nascentium, now commonly referred to as neonatal tetanus. Tetanus originates in horse manure. The likely cause of the disease, enslaved infants, given their living condition and their proximity to animal stables. Sims attributed the condition to the indecency and intellectual flaws of the black slaves, together with skull malformations at birth. Sims attempted to treat this malady by trying to pry the bones in the skulls of the tiny infants into alignment with a shoemaker's awl. I was careful to find one from the 1800s. He would stick that into the brain and the skulls of black infants at birth in an effort to realign their skulls because of the indecency of their parents. He is worshipped in this medical world, J. Mary Sims. But I was more curious about how a physician could do such a thing. And here's how you do it. You pathologize the people. Now, let me read what they said about black women, because it gets real specific, black women. Their first pathological symptom was their skin color. In a medical world that categorized life as either normal or pathological, people of the African diaspora were continually condemned to the category of pathological, their abnormal skin serving as a foil for normal white skin. Stay with me. The skin, if you see black people, the problem is the skin itself is pathological because it's actually a foil over normal white skin. This is what medical journals suggested. Now we're going to find out how they named it. Medical tradition has a long history of perceiving this skin color as a form of pathology. The favorite theory, which reappears with some frequency in the early 19th century, is that the skin color and attendant physiognomy of the black, here's the reason why y'all black, is because of congenital leprosy. This is why there's so many of us. We all have congenital leprosy. Now, we have a second symptom. The second symptom of pathology.
The reason why we are people of color is because we have leprosy. Ooh. This is the justification for Esau. We have a foil. Our skin color is a foil over the white skin that's really under our skin.
It makes sense.
Oh yeah, and our skin color allows us to bear unbearable pain. That's what he was saying. This is what we have to go through. Can I play it?
This is why there's so many of us. We all have congenital leprosy. Now, we have a second symptom. The second symptom of pathology was gender. Black females were perceived to be irreligious, lustful, and immoderate. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? Let's take a look at that. We need to really take a look at this one, because I have a whole chapter on rape. Can't even get close to what that did to me. There were over, and this comes out of a social work book. In a social work book, it states that there were over 600,000 mixed race babies born in the mid-1800s based on the census. Now, this was during miscegenation. That means it's illegal to marry. So who was sneaking out back and who was raping whom? We have numbers. Young girls rarely made it to their teens before they were raped. But let's put that in perspective as a social scientist. Now I want to get into that, to the fact that we were lustful, because then you see it's their fault, isn't it? Surely I raped them, but didn't they deserve it? Now we need evidence of how we know they're lustful and immoderate and immoral. Here we go. Their protruding buttocks and genitals were offered as physical evidence of their pathology. Anybody up there with a big butt? Anybody with a big butt out there? There you have it, you slut. It's incredulous, isn't it? It's hard for you to even believe it. You see it's in books. And the criminally insane.
They said because of how good our women's physique looked, that was the reason why they were promiscuous and lustful. That's why she said it's convenient, isn't it? Because here you are oppressing a people that they're helpless. They can't do nothing. You're sneaking out the back door to go admire our women's physiques and treating them any way you want. Can't keep your hands off our women. But yet they're the reason why. They're the ones who's asking for that.
Goodness gracious.
Jump to 15 minutes and 40 seconds.
That the U.S. Senate offered an apology, and folks wouldn't. Boy, we're an amazing people. We're an amazing people. But we don't know who we are. And you cannot heal what you don't understand. We can't heal it if we won't look at it. So how does it manifest itself? Very quickly, let me go through some of my research, because I'm going to give you some examples.
And that's what she said, that's key. We cannot heal it if we don't look at it. And that's what I want everybody to keep in mind as we continue to go through this class. Is everybody with me so far? Everybody online with me? Drop a comment, please. Oh, y'all thought it was just a one-way street, right? This book right here. This is one of my favorite books. I don't know why it's a sleeper. I always be trying to put it in the chat every once in a while. It's American Holocaust. It literally talks about history on the 10 tribes, the northern tribes. It has the Creek Indians. Yo, I'm telling you, it has so much in here. Okay, everybody's still with me. Okay. Okay. What is sisters at? See, 1, 2. Hey, all right. It's 2. So it's the American Holocaust, right? We're going to read a couple of pages from American Holocaust. We're going to start off at page 147. Like that. Still in this box. And then all these, right? 8, 8, 9. 50, 51.
Says during the course of 4 centuries, from the 1490s to the 1890s, Europeans and white Americans engaged in an unbroken string of genocide campaigns against the native people of the Americas.
So it says from the what? 1490s to the 1890s. Go ahead.
Pictured on the following pages are the results of the first of these slaughters, the Spanish depredations in the West Indies and Mesoamerica under the initial command of Christopher Columbus.
Of who?
Of Christopher Columbus.
Yes, your Spaniards and the conquistadors. Bring it through. Let's go.
And what conventionally, though incorrectly, is regarded as the last of them, the United States Army massacre of Sioux Indians near a creek called Wounded Knee in South Dakota. The scenes are representative of thousands of other such incidents that occurred, and in some places continue to occur. In the Indies and in the South, Central and North America, most of them bloodbaths that have gone unnamed and are long forgotten. This page says, the Spaniards took babies from their mother's breast, grabbing them by the feet and smashing their heads against the rocks.
So real quick, you have our women again, right? Spaniards took the babies that were being breastfed, right, by the legs and smashed their heads against the rocks. Now, my theory, that's my theory. My theory is slavery and the atrocities that our people experience has a big part to do with postpartum in women.
Makes sense.
Right?
Put it down in theory, bro. Rock that.
Go ahead.
They built a long gibbet, long enough for the toes to touch the ground and prevent strangling, and hanged 13 natives at a time in honor of Christ our Savior and the 12 apostles. Then straw was wrapped around their torn bodies and they were burned alive.
Straw was wrapped around their bodies and they was burned alive after being hung. Go ahead, next page.
As the Spaniards went with their war dogs hunting down Indian men and women, it happened that a sick Indian woman who could not escape from the dogs sought to avoid being torn apart by them. In this fashion, she took a cord and tied her year-old child to her leg, and she hanged herself from a beam.
So listen, because she didn't want to get eaten by the dogs, she killed her and her offspring. I really want you guys to really imagine this. Really let it seep in the mind. From the 1490s to the 1890s, how many hundreds of years is that? 400 years. 400. Go ahead.
She took a cord and tied her year-old child to her leg, and then she hanged herself from a beam. But the dogs came and tore the child apart. Before the creature expired, however, a friar baptized her. Says they would cut an Indian's hand and leave them dangling by a shred of skin, and they would test their swords and their manly strength on captured Indians and place bets on slicing off heads or the cutting of bodies in half with one blow. One cruel captain traveled over many leagues, capturing all the Indians he could find.
So I have a question. What is a woman supposed to do if she knows this is happening to her men? I'm trying to show you the same thing that was happening with the house of Judah is the same thing that was happening with Israel. We was experiencing the same atrocities at the same times. It's no difference. I don't want people to say, well, they're talking about black. No, actually, that's all of the tribes. This is what I'm proving. It's the same plight. She's seeing her husband getting eaten by dogs, getting his head cut off, and she's not protected. Imagine the sexual deviances these Spaniards have if they're able to rip a baby from being breastfed from her milk, being breastfed milk, and bash his head or her head on a rock. you're going to do the same thing. If you do have children that are alive, what you're going to do is you're going to coddle the male, and you're going to push the woman to be what? Independent of the man. Continue on.
It says, one cruel captain traveled over many leagues.
Yep, that's post-traumatic slave syndrome. Whatever bit karma is. That's post-traumatic slave syndrome. Go ahead.
Capturing all the Indians he could find. Since the Indians would not tell him who their new lord was, he cut off the hands of some and threw others to the dogs, and thus they were torn to pieces. The Spanish treated the Indians with such rigor and inhumanity that they seemed the very ministers of hell, driving them day and night with beatings, kicks, lashes, and blows, and calling them no sweeter names than dogs. Women who had just given birth were forced to carry burdens for the Christians, and thus could not carry their infants because of the hard work and weakness of hunger. Infinite number of these were cast aside on the road and thus perished.
Infinite of these were cast on the side of the road and thus perished. What?
They threw those into those holes all the Indians they could capture of every age and kind. Pregnant and confined women, children, old men were left stuck on the stakes until the pits were filled.
Children were left stuck on the stakes until the pits were filled. Pregnant women as well. What?
Says the rest they killed with lances and daggers and threw them to their war dogs, who tore them up and devoured them.
Jump to page, go back to page 74. Page 74. Maya, if you can, so kindly get Deuteronomy 28 and 56 and 57. I'm gonna just read this. The box. In the box. Oh, wait until he reads that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you,
The tender and delicate woman among you, which is our woman, right? Go ahead.
which would not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness
Right,
and tenderness.
because we treated them delicate, we treated them like princesses, right? But now the sole of her foot is being what? Caused to work, tired, malnourished, physical mistreatment, being overworked, etc. Right, go ahead.
Her eyes shall be evil towards her husband.
Her eyes shall be what?
Evil towards her husband.
Why? He can't protect her. He can't provide for her. He can't lead her. He can't guide her. Now imagine that being passed. Remember, genetic what? Genetic curses, genetic trauma being passed down through generations. We just got this has been happening from 1490s to the 1890s. Imagine that. One thing the doctor was saying is she kept stressing this has been going on for hundreds of years. Go ahead.
Page 74. It says when they were allowed to go home, they often found it deserted and had no other recourse than to go out into the woods to find food.
No, my fault. You go. Slide.
Her eyes shall be evil towards her husband of her bosom, and towards her son, and towards her daughter.
And towards her son, and so this predicament that they're going through, that she's going through, is gonna force her to have an evil eye. It's not because she wants to, it's because of the condition that she's in. She's being overworked. Someone's not even having their menstrual cycle. And the babies that they are having and breastfeeding are getting their head bashed on rocks. They're malnourished. They can't feed their children. They don't want to see their children get sick and die. So they're stuck. They want to love and respect their husband, but they can't because look what's going on to them. They want to love and treat their children right and educate them and lead them and build them up. But guess what? They can't. So they end up doing what? Killing their children.
Wow.
And you telling me that postpartum has nothing to do with slavery? Aren't there some cases where especially in Black, Latino, and Native American women, that when they have babies, they kill them because of postpartum? My rib was telling me the other day that this woman, she had a child and she left the child in the oven. Go ahead.
Verse 57. And towards her young one that cometh out from between her feet.
And towards her young, exactly, her baby that cometh out between her feet. Go ahead.
And towards her children which she shall bear. For she shall eat them for want of all things secretly. And the siege of straightness wherewith thine enemy shall distress thee in thy gate.
Read 74.
Page 74. It says, when they were allowed to go home, they often found it deserted and had no other recourse than to go out into the woods to find food and to die. When they fell ill, which was very frequently because they are delicate people accustomed to such work, the Spaniards did not believe them and pitilessly called them lazy dogs and kicked and beat them.
You're calling me lazy dog, but I'm working tirelessly for you every day. Go ahead.
And when illness was apparent, they sent them home as useless, giving them some cassava for a 20 to 80 league journey. They would go then, falling into the first stream and dying there in desperation. Others would hold on no longer, but very few ever made it home. I sometimes came upon dead bodies on my way, and others upon who were gasping and moaning in their death agony, repeating, hungry, hungry. It says here, they were so exhausted and depressed on both sides that they had no mind for marital communication, and in this way they ceased to procreate.
See? They were so exhausted, they had no energy for marital communication. Isn't that an issue within our communities and households today?
Absolutely.
Marital communication? You think that's a coincidence?
Nope.
Go ahead.
As for the newly born, they died early because their mothers, overworked and famished, had no milk to nurse them. And for this reason, while I was in Cuba, 7,000 babies died in 3 months.
Read that again.
It says, and for this reason, while I was in Cuba, 7,000 babies died in 3 months.
7,000 babies died in 3 months in Cuba. Go ahead.
Some mothers even drowned their babies from sheer
Some mothers did what?
Some mothers even drowned their babies from sheer desperation, while others caused themselves to abort with certain herbs that produce stillborn children. In this way, husbands died in the mines, wives died at work, and children died from lack of milk, while others had no time or energy for procreation. And in short time, this land, which was so great, so powerful and fertile, though so unfortunate, was depopulated.
And that's what I want to get. We was going through heinous and inhumane torture and treatment to the point where our women were killing our children. Depressed, malnourished, marital communication, it ceased. And this has been passed on generation to generation. We never healed from this trauma that was passed down through our ancestors. Right? There's more. I'll put y'all not the first video I sent you, the other one. The one that says operation. You know what I can do to show you which one I'm talking about? I can just like it. That one, yep, that one. Yeah.
January 24, the New York Times reported today that Puerto Rico's birth rate is decreasing as a result of the continuing heavy rate of female sterilizations and the migration of young people to the mainland. The rate of sterilization ranges from 10% to 42%. 42% of the women working in one factory outside San Juan were found to have been sterilized.
North American troops landed in Puerto Rico in 1898. 2 years later, Charles Allen, first North American civilian governor, complained that there were too many Puerto Rican laborers and poor and not enough men of capital. The corporations soon arrived, and by 1930, they already owned more than half of the land. Displaced from the land by the thousands, the small farmers went to work, planting and harvesting sugarcane. By 1937, unemployment had reached 37%. The Puerto Rican people, now landless, jobless, and uprooted, became what the planners called excess population. The North American governor, Blanton Winship, approved in 1937 Law Number 136, legalizing sterilization. Based on the principles of eugenics, which advocated the breeding of the fit and the weeding out of the unfit, namely the poor and non-white. These laws came, in Winship's words, to fill the urgent need to avoid the menace of the ever-growing population. The needlework industry, piecework in the home and in sweatshops, where women were paid lower wages than men, flourished in Puerto Rico as World War II decimated Europe's garment industry, creating great demand in the world market. The law allowing sterilization was passed precisely when women's labor was the only source of income for thousands of Puerto Rican families, and many women were forced to get sterilized. The fertility of women had great importance among the first inhabitants of Puerto Rico. Each of these fertility symbols represents 1% of the island's women of childbearing age. By 1946, 6.5% of all Puerto Rican women had been sterilized in government hospitals and private clinics.
And now our Caribbean report. Puerto Rico, a beautiful little island with a big problem. Today, April 30th, 1945, Chief of the U.S. Tariff Commission, Mr. Dorfman, has suggested the migration of 1 million Puerto Ricans as part of a plan to reduce the population problem on the island.
This migration was spontaneous inasmuch as the workers decided to migrate in search of jobs, but it was also planned. A confidential report by the island's government suggested in 1955 that 60,000 should leave. Shipping people out was, in effect, official policy. Production underwent rapid transformations during the 1940s. Operation Bootstrap, as the industrialization model was called, offered U.S. corporations tax-free operations, cheap labor, and handsome profits. Regarded by its planners as a showcase for prosperity and democracy, the new economic model further reduced the need for workers. This increased the so-called excess population.
It was known the number of jobs that Bootstrap was going to create would never be enough to occupy the people entering the labor force each year, so that from the beginning, the very earliest plans, it was very clear that a very intensive campaign promoting birth control, sterilization, and other forms of reducing birth were going to have to be put into place.
So So I had other clips, you know, they were much, much longer. That was a condensed version. It actually interviewed the women. Many women died from the sterilization. And it was a selfish reason at the time, you know, in Puerto Rico, that the women's garment district in labor, it was basically bringing in money to the Puerto Rican families at the time. And so in order to keep the women working and bringing money in and continue the industry, what they did was they forced many women to be sterilized. Right? So these were continuing, right? It wasn't just from the 1490s to 1890s. This is 1956, 58. This is recent.
That's crazy.
That wasn't that long ago. That's under 100 years ago.
64 years. That's nuts.
And we're looking at them, what? Like they are friends, they are enemies. They are our enemies. Yes, we might have to tolerate them, right? Our works, you know, you got to get little connections, little things, business. All right, cool. But at the end of the day, know that they're your enemy, right? But the point that I'm driving home is we need to heal. I just wanted to get you historical evidence and proof that trauma has been passed down from generation to generation, and we have not gotten a chance to heal from that. And I'm gearing this towards the sisters so that way we can see just all the things that they go through. And you sisters, I just want to make sure that you know too, you're aware. Because just like she said, if you're unaware of what's going on inside of your mind, your body, your spirit, then how are you going to heal? How are you going to confess? How is your mind supposed to be renewed? Salvation isn't just for the man, it's for the woman too. You got to seek out your own salvation through fear and trembling. You have to have newness of mind as well. You have to mortify your members as well. You have to understand the condition that the Lord wants to bring you, that you're in to where he wants to bring you. And we're going to discuss that. I think that we forget. That's what I'm saying. We forget about the sisters. You are so valuable. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Of course, we got to go through the issues first before we get to the great part. But I'm trying to take this slow because I don't want to rush this lesson. I really want you guys to really get it in depth. You know what I'm saying? If you want me to slow down or if you want me to elaborate on something, please just let me know. But the importance of our sisters needs to be talked about more. The value of them, the support of them. You know what I'm saying? Where you guys are at and holding you guys accountable. It's my job to hold you guys accountable as well. You know, it's my job to expose things so you know how to go about certain things. And it's also my job to take the lens off of brothers' eyes to give them better lens so they can see you guys for what you guys are and lead you guys to the harmony, to be in the harmony that the Lord destined for us to be in the harmony in the first place. Huh? So, you got that?
Psalm 2.
Yes.
Verse 1.
Verse 2.
Song of Solomon, chapter 2, and verse 2. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters.
Right. So here, right, is so is as a lily amongst thorns, so is my love upon the daughters of who? Zion. Israel. You guys are special and delicate, but you get mishandled, you get mistreated, you get misused. I fall guilty of that. Pretty sure there's other brothers who fall guilty of that as well. Get that verse?
This is Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 17. There shall be no whore of the daughter of Israel.
There shall be what?
No whore of the daughter of Israel, nor a sodomite
of the sons of Israel.
So it said there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel. We hope, right? We have, y'all, Israel is filled with beautiful women. The top woman on the planet comes from the 12 tribes of Israel. Can I get a con? Con. If brothers agree with me online, the top women of Israel, don't just be biased because you're Israel. The top women come from the 12 tribes of Israel.
Damn right.
Right. So, but the sad reality is not all of our sisters are wives. It's a sad reality. Most of our women are harlots. Most of our women. And that's the harsh and sad reality. Some of our women are being called into a higher understanding and a higher version of themselves when they hear the Lord calling. But some stay in that cycle. And because they're in that cycle, they continue to breed forth these children. Well, I'm going to get what that means later. Read what you have, Barak.
Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness.
Right. Do not prostitute thy daughter. But guess what? The land is filled of wickedness and whoredom. All you see is fornication and songs and videos and movies, no matter where you go. All you see is good-looking women in short or skimpy clothing
Everywhere.
that shows all their beautiful, voluptuous curves. You see them. The other day, I was in the gym with Mahaya, and I was like, yo, this sister, we both agreed. She was on point. I'm not gonna hold you. You know what I'm saying? This is keeping it 100. But like, I was annoyed. He could tell you. I was annoyed because I'm like, yo, why is she coming to the gym like that? Like her hair was done. It almost looked like she curled it. Like she's wearing like this one piece. It's like complementing her curves. It looked like almost like she's going out to a club. All she needed to do is change her sneakers and heels. She would have been straight. I'm like, I don't.
Why?
But that's the whoredom. That's the whoredom, right? That's the condition of our people. He's used us so much, right? He's turned us against ourselves. Remember, she's promiscuous. She's immoral, and she thinks that she's better than you now. She don't want your protection. She don't want your provision. You can't tell her nothing. She don't want to be led by you. So in our minds, we're like, yo, we want a feminine, soft woman that is compatible with us, that can agree with us, right? That has wisdom, that can pour into us and we can pour into them. Feminine, submissive. But we're like, if you're not going to give us that, then we just going to use you. You look good anyways. So it's this perpetual cycle of whoredom and wickedness. And just like Mashak said earlier, they know how to pull on our triggers. But the sad reality is we handle fornication differently, men and women. And this was already prophesied that this would happen. Let's get Hosea 4:11.
Hosea chapter 4 and verse 11. Pour them in wine and new wine. Take away the heart.
Isn't that the truth? When you with your brothers, or with your boys, or when you with your girls, and y'all go out for a drink, you know, your conscience starts to get lower. You get a little bit of liquid courage. Some of us don't need liquid courage to go out and speak to people, right? You see a fine gentleman or you see a fine woman, you go, you spit your game, you talk a little bit, and then what ends up happening? You get the number, the Instagram, the TikTok, whatever, and then it just causes a perpetual cycle of wickedness. I know sisters, right? They're sending all these signals for this fine brother to come back them, right? But in their mind, they're not really thinking about longevity. They're like, oh, this fine brother, he looking clean, he's smelling right, he know how to dress. Let me hear his voice, so let me make sure he sound right. She hears his voice, and now she's feeling all tingly inside. But women, they're masters at playing the cool. Women are masters at playing the cool. They give you enough so you can read the signal. You got to take the charge. And then, boom, right? Talking a little bit. Now, the date set up. The date for what? Not to go on the date so you could know her, so you could court her. Nah, the date set up for you to go over or for her to come over. Now, as this is going on, both y'all getting ready. Y'all taking showers. You making sure everything's shaved. You know what I'm saying? You got your cologne. You got your fresh outfit. Because she got to see you how she seen you and wherever you met. Wherever you see you.
Right.
You gotta make sure you coming clean. And the same thing with the sisters. I want to make sure I smell right, my hair's done. You know what I'm saying? You're checking to see if your butt looks good in this dress, that dress. You're asking your girlfriend or your mother, your aunt, your cousin. Right? And you're either your brother, you're in the whip, you bumping some music, you know what I'm saying? Or you feeling yourself. Because you done bagged something nice. Yo, you just talking to yourself about it. But the whole time, you chilling, like you cool. You get inside, you go crazy. What? Right? You just chilling, just relax. Same thing's going with her. She's like, I cannot fuck this brother up. I'm about to go crazy on him. So you feeling good, you spraying perfume on your thighs. You making sure you smell good on your neck. You making sure your skin's moisturized and looking nice. You may it could be a bus, it could be a car, but you getting it. Bus. It could be a bus or a train. Right. And you going over there. And this is the crazy thing. You guys can barely know each other. But you guys are in your low frequency. And right now, what Scripture will call this is a beastly estate.
Wow.
Right. Because why? You're not at a place where you're controlling your appetites. You're not at a place where you're controlling your desires. You're giving into them. So you're doing all this, right? And then you lay down together. You lay down together. And you swap spirits.
Yes, sir.
You swap spirits. You swap beings, right? And the more, so now, right, what ends up happening is one or two things. It could be a one and done, or if it was crazy,
come back.
You coming right back. You coming right back, and then if you're in the world, you're like, yo, son, yo, I got the pictures, yo, Yo, look. Yeah. Because you're not taking it serious because you know that's not going to be your rhythm. But what are you doing? You're making a whore out of the daughter of Zion. You're only perpetuating a cycle for there to be more whoredom in the land. And she's like, girl, you know what just happened to me? He done did this, he done did that. Oh my God. And she's sending a text, when's the next time you're coming over? And this could last. This could last 6 months. It could last 3 months. It could last a year. It could last 2 years. It could last 3 years. But that's just your thing that you know, get up with. And you're not taking each other serious, but you're swapping spirits.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And now you're conjoining to each other. Now this brother, he might have you, he might have 3, 4, 5, 10. So all these 10, 5, 2, 3, however much he has, is that those spirits are swapping with you too.
And if the chick is messing with the dude,
3, 4, 5 dudes,
he might be gay. So you messing with that spirit too.
And you messing with that bisexual spirit, yeah. Because y'all swapping spirits every time you guys connect.
That's madness.
And so what ends up happening is you create soul ties. Right? You end up soul ties. Brothers, right? Brothers, we're able to deal with fornication differently than women. We can put our emotions aside, but one thing we don't know, right? I'll give this to brothers, right? This is sister style, but I'll give this to brothers. One thing we don't know is it might not affect us immediately, but it will affect us later. I'm going to get into that.
Got you.
I'm going to get into that. But sisters, what ends up happening is you are emotional creatures. So you hold on to these emotional ties. Now, sometimes women can fornicate and not have no spiritual ties. But when a woman gets to that point, it's hard to bring her back. Because why? She wasn't designed for that. A man was designed to where if he wants one wife, he can have one wife. If he wants to deal with many women lawfully, he can do that. He can do that. A woman was made for one man.
Absolutely.
So her spiritual, her mind, her body, her spirit, her feelings, her emotion is supposed to be for one man. But when she's experiencing different men, she holds those ties onto her. Those men and their personalities end up being part of her psyche and her spirit. Soul ties. Brothers were able to fornicate without a problem. Without a problem. But then, why, when you're with a rib, or when you actually grow up, right, and you're on your journey, and you're driving down the street, you're having a good time with your rib, you're in a great season. And all of a sudden, what pops up in your mind is when you was doing wild stuff, fornicating with this other woman. That's because it affects us later. And it affects women immediately. The point is, we both have to uproot that. And the way to do that is you have to go to the Father. You have to have a spiritual connection with Yahweh Shai. Remember, we're talking about healing here. You have to go before the Father. That's why I said you have to be aware. And what about the women who don't care about dealing with other women's men? What about that? You want to be an adulterer? That's what you want to be? It's not judgment. It's the spirit. You're swapping these spirits, and these things are attached to you. You have to be aware in order for you to heal. You have to face it in order for you to heal. The best way to do that is having a connection with the Father and the Son. You go to the Father through the Son, and you ask for the strength, and you get down, and you're vulnerable to allow you to detach these people who you have tied to your spirit. Because if you do not do that, the way they think, their smell, the time where you fornicated with them, those thoughts will cycle through your mind. And it won't happen. It's not a magic wand that poof, then it's gone. It's a process. You may have to fast. You may have to ask for clarity. The point of the matter is these things are tied to us and we have to get rid of them.
How?
And then on top of that, that might not even be an issue, right? Let's say you was in a relationship. This is a good one, right? Let's say a woman was married 5, 10, 11 years. You wasn't doing no fornicating. Guess what? Spiritual ties, soul ties are really real.
Yes, sir.
You was with a man for 10 years. First of all, let me give y'all an understanding of something. Marriage, right, in this aspect, I'm gonna give y'all a metaphor. It's similar to the olive tree. How long does it take for an olive tree to bear fruit?
10 years.
10 years. In order for you to really know somebody, I'm talking about harsh ups, downs, for you to pour into that person pour into you, for you guys to get to a place where you guys are one in the Lord and to actually reap the benefits of marriage, you gotta put in a good 10 years. Now, if you're connected to somebody for that long and you get divorced for whatever reason, you are spiritually still connected to that person. You are tied to that person mentally. Now, if it was your husband, let's say you guys have kids, even more so. And the issue sometimes is we do not embrace being alone. In that moment, you should take the time to be alone and seek peace. This is the time where you should be praying. You should be fasting. You should be developing your connection in the Lord. You should be seeking counsel. You should be preparing yourself to be at peace with yourself before you go into the next relationship. And a lot of times, brothers don't know the questions or don't know how to ask. If you are involved with somebody who's been married for a long time, you have to break that down, but with patience, not on some, are you still thinking about him? Like, that's insecure. You have to help her get detached from, because obviously y'all didn't wait, you didn't court her, and you didn't ask her these questions, you didn't help her, right? But you should be asking these questions. And a lot of times the women aren't aware of that. A lot of times women aren't aware of these things. Soul ties is a very, very real thing. You talking about you spent time with, you became one with this person for 11 years, 10 years, 15 years, 17, 20. You have work to do and you have to give back to yourself. There's so much that you poured into that marriage, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically. And then a lot of times people are getting in relationships and they don't understand, they haven't sat with themselves. They're seeking fulfillment of something that they lacked in childhood from somebody else. That's the wrong reason to be in a relationship. Because we're not doing what we need to do to be aware of our needs, of our wants. We're not writing things down. We're not how you call that, like analyzing and being aware of the things that are in us that we need to fix. In this walk that you're walking with Yahweh Shai, you're gonna keep realizing until you get to that place, Lord willing, we make it, that you constantly have to add and take away, add and take away, add and take away to yourself. That's if you're holding yourself accountable and you're being honest and real with yourself. You've always got to add something to yourself and take away. And guess what? It's always uncomfortable. But that builds your character. These spiritual soul ties that we have is a serious thing. Continue to read that in 4 and 11. It
says, whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart. My people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff declareth unto them. For the spirit of whoredoms hath caused them to err, and they have gone a whoring from under their God.
Keep going.
They sacrifice upon the tops of the mountains and burn incense upon the hills, under oaks and poplars and elms, because of the shadow thereof is good. Therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom, and your spouses.
Your daughter shall do what?
Therefore your daughters shall commit whoredom, and your spouses shall commit adultery.
And your spouses shall do what?
Shall commit adultery.
And where does adultery start in the mind? And for a woman, could she not have slept with anybody but have committed adultery with you? Yes. Emotional, right?
Right.
Right. Right. Starts in the mind. Right. I'll pull up that article. If you can, so kindly, Apaya, can you pull up that article? Thank you. It says previous sex partners and woman reproduction. Did you know that a woman's previous sex partners can impact a woman's offspring? Yes, you heard it right. Recent research has confirmed this, although this theory dates to ancient Greece, where it was an accepted fact. However, genetic theory in the 20th century disregarded this until now. Recent scientists at the University of New South Wales discovered a new form of non-genetic inheritance and have shown for the first time that physical traits of previous sex partners can be passed on to future children. According to the research, the effect is because the molecules in the seminal fluid of the first male mate are absorbed by the immature eggs of the female, which then influences the development of the second male's offspring.
Wow.
To reach this conclusion, Crean and colleagues Anna Copps and Professor Russell B. manipulated the size of male flies and then studied their offspring. They found that the size of the young was determined by the size of the first male their mothers had mated with, and not the second male, who was their biological father. The researchers noted that various non-genetic inheritance mechanisms make it possible for maternal or paternal environmental factors to influence the characteristics or traits of a child. The study, which has been published in journal Ecology Letters has raised many questions about transmission of certain traits. In another similar publication, a new study found that a woman carries living DNA from all the men she has ever had sexual relationship with.
That's crazy.
The startling discovery was made by researchers at the University of Seattle and the Fred Hutchinson's Cancer Research Center. The discovery was made by accident when the team was initially attempted to find out if a pregnant woman with a son or more susceptible to neurological diseases that men are more vulnerable to. The study began to take a turn when scientists dived deep into the female brain. They discovered the woman's brain processed male DNA known as microchirism is defined by the presence of circulating cells bidirectionally transferred from one genetically distinct individual to another. These cells are different from that of the cells that make up a woman. Now, do not be confused by your father's DNA. Your DNA is unique because he and your mother combined to make you. At first, research thought that the male DNA found in the female brain came from carrying a male while pregnant. So they thought that the male DNA that they found was because the woman was carrying a boy. But that was not true. Why? On closer inspection, male DNA cells were still prevalent in the brains of women who had never been pregnant. So this has come from casual sex or fornication. Scientists say there are only 4 ways male DNA cells are likely to show up in a female brain: unknown abortion, possibly a vanished male twin, older brother transferred by the maternal circulation, and sexual intercourse. Finding a man's DNA in a woman's brain from the first 3 sources applies to only a small percentage of women. The only likely option researchers could account for in the study of 63% of women who had it was through sexual intercourse. The implications for women are great. When sperm enters a woman, listen closely, it swims until it hits a wall, then seeps into her flesh. If it is in your mouth, it can get into your nasal areas, behind your eyeballs, even into your inner ear. It then enters your bloodstream and collects into your brain and spine. You can never get rid of it.
Goodness gracious.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Literally.
That's
All right, I'm just hold on. So there was an article that the General brought out, and it said that women who weren't pregnant, who had casual sex, and a male ejaculated in them, the semen can live up in her for 7 years, up to 7 years. But a woman who had children with a man, his semen would last in her up to 33 years. 33 years. So the more we continue to lay with our women, the more they become us. They think like us. They act like us. You know, they finishes our sentence. They know it's funny. They know what we like. That's because they're becoming us. Literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Khan, everybody follow me? Apaya, play that video with the pastor.
in pastoring for 20 plus years,
Pastoring 42.
42 years
Yeah.
that you've been pastoring.
Yes.
What has been the biggest lesson that pastoring and growing a church has taught you about yourself?
It's humble. It has humbled me.
Mm.
I didn't realize pastoring will teach you, will show you, will reveal the level of your ego.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you're going to have these highs. I guess it's like an entertainer.
Yeah.
You'll have this time when you're hot and you think you're going to be there forever. Then you have this time when you hit that ground and you realize you're not. And you'll have this time when the church is just growing amazingly. You can do no wrong. And you have this time when it cools off. And it revealed to me the fragility of my ego and how in a lot of ways I'm very vain. Like when I came in here today, I said, I need a monitor because I want to see myself, you know, and I really do, but I'm breaking that part of me, that vanity part of me, because pastoring has taught me that in a lot of ways I've been a very vain man. Now I'm learning to be a humble man. Pastoring is yet teaching me, you know, first things first. It's all about God. It's all about service. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 people or 10.
Yeah.
Preach to the 10 like you would the 1,000.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's broken me in great ways.
It's broken you in great ways.
Great ways.
Well, talk about breaking. You talk a lot about breaking soul ties in your messaging.
Yeah.
And that was such a point of interest that I wanted to talk to you about because we hear about soul ties. Dr. J. Barnett says, one of the quotes that he said, I don't even know if we delved into it into the interview, but he says that you can have a soul tie with someone who you've never had sex with.
I agree.
And so you talk a lot about the soul ties and the breaking of them in a lot of your courses. What is the common thread with soul ties that you're seeing? And then what is a soul tie first?
Well, a soul tie, you know, some will say, oh, that's not in the Bible. And it is not. The term is not in the Bible. The concept is. The Bible talks about how if a man or a woman, if a man lays down with a harlot or a woman lays down with a whoremonger, there's almost like this demonic marriage between you and that person sexually. You become one with that individual.
I kind of want to laugh right now because in my mind, Pastor, I'm just thinking. But anyway, go ahead. I'm here.
You didn't want to finish? You didn't want
child, a demonic marriage.
A demonic marriage.
Sir. It's some demons out here.
For real. Yeah. STDs, sexually transmitted demons. Yeah. You hadn't heard that one?
Sexually transmitted demons?
Sexually transmitted demons.
No, but I think I've encountered one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first step to freedom.
I might have contracted a sexually transmitted demon, and you know who you are. So anyway, go on, Pastor.
So there's this connection made, you know, that we think we can just, this is the hookup culture age.
Yeah.
And we think we can just hook up with people and there are no repercussions. And the reality is, in a lot of instances, when you get out of their bed, they never leave your head. And so you have a lot of women in particularly that buy into this idea that I can sleep around. It doesn't matter. I can be nasty like men. And I'll have no problems. And then they go from not understanding that the feminine soul is different. The feminine spirit is different than a man's. It's much more sensitive. And so she has all of these ideas, all of these different experiences, all of these different people tied to her soul, her mind. And so watch this, when she meets the man that is her ordained husband, and I've seen this over and over again in the work we do, she can't even relate to him intimately or romantically because of all of the ideas and all of the experiences that are running through her mind.
So the sex that she's had is clouding her judgment for what's in front of her.
The sex, the personalities, the
Mm.
voices, the memories, the sense, the sexual, the different sexual experiences that reshape, her soul relative to what is pleasurable, all of those things.
So that same thing you don't believe can be said about men?
Absolutely, but it impacts us later.
Mm.
See, I didn't realize when I was doing all of that running around with all of these women, well, the community told me, you the man.
Yeah.
You the man. You got all these chicks, you the man. It wasn't until I got to a point in my life where I got tired of that and I realized I wanted to move in the direction of settling down with one ordained woman, that I realized my history was now challenging my destiny. I then realized it was a problem in my mind because just like the woman, I have all of these ideas of what I need, what I desire, what I want.
Yeah.
And so I'm bringing all of this stuff into a new. This is why you have men who fall on their knees and cry and sob and say to a woman, I love you. I love you. But at the same time, he just got out of the bed with so-and-so. And the wife is like, how you love me and you just got out of bed? Soul ties. See, he didn't realize it in the beginning. But later, when it's time for you to grow up and be a man and be a stand-up guy and be able to, stand on your square, that's when we realize the repercussions of it.
Mm. Okay, so when you talk to women and men and they are trying to break a soul tie, what is the first thing that you tell them to do?
The first thing that I tell anybody to do
when you is he gonna say what he's gonna repeat what I said. The first thing you have to do is you have to have a connection with Yahushua. You have to have a connection with the Most High. You have to be able to be vulnerable with your Creator. And you have to ask Him to give you the strength to break these soul ties once you're aware of them. Because you don't want that burden in you. You don't want those soul ties burdening you. And you can. Because if the Lord forgave you for fornicating, for adultery, why can't your brothers and your sisters forgive you and see you as a different person, especially when you're trying to reshape and build yourself to be the best person, the best woman you can be? If the Lord is not going to condemn you, neither should your family. Neither should the man that you're about to be with. Neither should the sister that you're around. Khan? Okay. Oh, no. Forgot. Almost forgot. Apaya. Any questions on soul ties before we move on? This is deep. This is deep. I'm just trying to bring out, things that, we both deal with, but things that women deal with. This is real. Like, how many brothers do you think, help sisters or courted sisters and ask these questions to them and help them, right? This may really be the person that you're supposed to be with.
Right.
But how have you made her aware of the things that she's done, not to condemn her, but to help her? There's certain things, he just said it. He said the sense, the different types of sexual experience you have, the personality. So let's say a woman's not even thinking about nothing else, but the way this person was to them that's in their mind all the time. They need to break that away from their mind. And it's possible because everything and anything is possible through the Most High, through Yahweh Shai.
Sure.
That's the first. You need to have a connection and a relationship with the Most High through Yahweh Shai. And you ask for the strength. Once you're aware, you ask for the strength. And it's hard to break it, especially when you're married. It's hard, right? It's hard to break that soul tie. You've been conjoined to somebody for 11 years, and then you thought that a year was okay, and then you're good to go. And then the person who actually is gonna be with you after that, what are they doing? Like, what questions are they asking you? How are they inquiring? You was part of this person's life for a long time, and if you have kids with them, let's just say that they're part of their kids' lives. You got to deal with this person forever. So it takes a secure man to help this woman who she's been married to this man for a while, and now she's raising his kids. Well, you don't just move on. That's what our people always try to do. Move on, move on. Move on doesn't mean you're making peace. Move on doesn't mean that you're addressing these traumas that's in you that you need to heal from. Move on doesn't mean you're detaching these people from your spirit, from your mind. That's the point. We have been, look at how our woman has been destroyed from the beginning of history, till now. With all these partners that they have. And look at the age. This is gonna be a marriageless society because everybody's doing is shacking up together. And then they're passing STDs like Skittles. Everybody want to be unprotected, have unprotected sex. We just got the soul ties. You messing with this one, and now you bring in this one, and then now y'all conjoining together. And let's say y'all are messing together. Let's say y'all messing with each other for some time. Hey, I don't want no relationship. Okay. And then if she gets feelings, they say, yo, I told you I don't want no relationship. Because you don't have the dignity to say, you know what, I'm not even going to use you like that. I'm saying, I'm not even going to use you like that. Now, you're in a frequency of a beast, so you're going to bring her to act like a beast too. And then y'all swapping spirits. So it's not just for the fornicating and adulterer woman. Now she's a whore or a slut. Right? She's getting whored down. Now she's a bust down. It's for the married woman too who was also divorced or you was in a relationship for some time. These soul ties are real. This is what our sisters are going through, brothers. Right? This is the burden. These are the things that we have to understand that our sisters are going through. And sisters, you have to admit to yourself, you have to, this is a time where you have to start being accountable. Salvation's unto you too. Newness of mind is unto you too. You have to get to a place where you know how to be a home to your husband. It's not just that you're in a home. You know how to be a helpmeet to your husband. What does that look like? Do you even know how to speak life into your man? Into your head? Do you even know how to properly appreciate him? Well, you might have problems with that because
You might not even know how to be affectionate towards him because that affection, you didn't get that when you was a child. So you don't know how to go about doing that. You didn't see that as a child. So you might not know how to go about doing that. So you're just learning as you go. What's the proper way to, and then most of the time, our communication is terrible. It's terrible. Our communication is terrible as Blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, and Natives. But more so for the Caribbean. Because with the Caribbean, one thing you could definitely pride us on is building, raising children off of principles and integrity all day, every day. But when it comes to emotional intelligence and articulating yourself or expressing how you feel, forget about it. Forget about it. You don't even get a chance to express anything. It's their way or the highway. Period. So we struggle with that. And the large majority of successful relationships is connecting, communication. Right? Apayat, can you pull up that article? Oh, that's crazy. It says, is it let me see. Oh, it says, let's see. It says, what is abandonment trauma? I'm gonna start from the second paragraph. It says, this is a unique type of trauma that results from being abandoned in one way or another during life. It can have a profound impact on how you approach relationships as well as your emotional well-being as a whole. Even if trauma happened early in childhood, the abandonment wound can continue to affect you in adulthood, affecting your mental health and interpersonal relationships. Abandonment, what is abandonment trauma and how does it develop? Abandonment trauma is a profound fear-based response stemming from experiences of abandonment, encompassing various forms, such as loss of a significant figure, so that's death, right? Unexpected breakups or divorces, right? So being divorced, that can lead you to have a abandonment trauma, right? Or early life neglect from primary attached figures like your mother or father, whether physical or emotional in nature, says licensed clinical social worker Claudia. When you're abandoned by someone who's important in your life, this can leave deep emotional scars and result in serious consequences. Abandonment trauma is not just about feeling abandoned in the moment during a specific intense instance of someone leaving you. It's about how that past experience or multiple experiences continue to shape your perception of your interpersonal relationship and overall mental health. The easiest way is to put it into words is a fear of being left or fear that people will not stay, especially when a connection becomes deeper and requires more vulnerability. For example, you might be afraid that the closer you get to someone and more they see the real you, the more likely they'll be to leave you. Abandonment trauma can develop either due to incidents in childhood or later life. However, I'll skip that. In case of childhood abandonment, it often arises from the actual loss of primary attachment figure, meaning a parent, or neglect, meaning emotional unavailability and dismissive behaviors by caregivers. So part of this is lack of emotional consistency, which a lot of children suffer from in early childhood, right? So your children neglecting you. You could have had parents who were on drugs. You could have had parents who used to party all the time. You could have had parents who are alcoholics, and they neglected you emotionally. You could have been provided for. You could have had a roof over your head. You could have had meals to eat. You could have had clothes on your back, but your home wasn't a happy home. They ignored you or neglected you emotionally because they was dealing with whatever they was dealing with. So what ends up happening, or you could be abusive. You could have got abused verbally. And so they sowed negative things into your mind, and now you're doubtful all the time of who you are. Right? We all come from different backgrounds. Right? You could have got sexually abused or molested as a young child. That led to different issues. Right? But the point is, I'm reading about abandonment issues because there's a plethora of mental issues that we go through in our mind that we still deal with and that we still haven't faced nor confessed that we need help with. And we have to ask for the strength or the counsel. We have to go to the Lord with our burdens in order to become new people, new woman, new man. And through these abandonment issues, you end up having different attachment styles. You could be a people pleaser because you're pleasing people too much because you don't want their presence to go away from you. Because that's what used to happen to you when you was a child. Your parents never stuck around. They neglected how you felt. Your opinions didn't matter. How you felt didn't matter. Right? Or you could be in avoidance to where you connect so but so much so that way you won't have emotional ties to people because of what happened in your childhood or a lost one or a loved one. Right? There's brothers and sisters who have lost somebody so bad, like that they love dearly to them through a death or through a marriage. And so they avoid getting close to people so they won't feel that pain again.
Right.
Or the opposite. They cling on to people because they don't want that person to go. Right? And then you have a secure. So somebody who grew up and had the emotional who got sold into or poured into as a child, who their feelings did matter. They did get to express themselves. They did get the attention that they needed. They did go through the little adversities in order to build up their self-esteem. That's secure attachment. Right? I believe there's 4. I touched on 3. So all these things is going on. All these things we need to break free from. This is why, as a man, when we got 1 Peter, it says, dwell with your woman according to what? Knowledge. It's not just talking about the law. It's not just talking about being. First of all, your behind needs to heal too. But we're not having these conversations enough. I challenge brothers and sisters to write down the hurtful things that happened to them as a child. Start from 0 to 5. Go from 5 to 10. Go from 10 to 15. Go from 15 to 20. And see, once you start more things is going to start to come in your head. And more things and more things. And you're going to see like, dang, I'm still dealing with this as a result of this. I still got this wall up as a result of this. I still, yeah. Yeah. I haven't broke free from. Sometimes I could be superficial because it's eating you alive, man. Stop suppressing who you're supposed to be because you
Yes,
haven't
sir.
confessed. You have not allowed that burden to come off of you.
Yes, sir.
You haven't brought it. It tells you to put your burdens on him.
Yes, sir.
You have to go to him.
Yes, sir.
And that's the thing. Like Kasadia, when he was talking about you're teaching out of convenience, listen, before I came to the understanding, and this is why I will always say humbly, like, I do not, my mother and my father's faith I don't care how much I know. It doesn't matter how much I know. Their faith surpasses mine by a million. By a million. Without no hesitation, I can say that. My mother and my father showed me how to have a relationship with the Most High. They built my foundation. I didn't see my mother weep. I didn't see the presence of the Lord in my household because of my mother. My mother and the Most High teamed up, and I've seen them make miracles happen, man.
Yes, sir.
We got by not because my mother knows she's an Israelite. My mother doesn't know she's an Israelite, even though I told her a million damn times. I stopped talking about it because of the purity of faith that she has, man.
Yes, sir.
She believes on Yahweh Shai from a place
that you can't imagine.
That I can't imagine. My father, I remember one time my father, he used to grab me on the weekends. And this day was different. I'm saying, like, usually my father's always giving me wisdom, always giving me wisdom. And it's funny because I remember a lot of the wisdom that he gave me today, but he was kind of quiet. He was playing some compas, some Haitian music, because he knew I used to like that when I was a child. And then, we get to his apartment, and he just sits on the bed, and he just starts breaking down. I'm like, what's going on? Like, and he just said, like, the Lord is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me as a child, like my mother and my father, they kept affirming how the Lord is a living God. And how imperative it is that you communicate, how imperative it is that you believe, how that way you could go to him with anything when you're happy in your deepest, darkest times. He will allow you to see a way through. He will. You have to trust him and believe in him on him enough. It's not just about what you know. It's about what you feel. And the crazy thing is, I think I was talking to you, Mahaya. Like, we was just talking about, like, it's crazy how we don't understand how the Lord loves us so much. And what makes that crazy is because the Lord created everything. So he allowed us to experience the deep feeling emotion of love. So when we think about the love that we have for our spouses, the love that we have for brothers, the love that we have for our mothers, our cousins, our families, our friends, and we think about how deep those connections are, we're like, dang, how can you love me so much? How? Like, before you, I am nothing. You love me this much? You have to go to the Father because he loves you. He's your Father. You have to learn how to have a relationship with him. And not just about what you know. Of course. You always got to study to show yourself approved. Not before you. I don't think that you should do that before you can feel him. If you can't feel the Lord, if you can't be vulnerable to the Lord, if you can't go to the Lord, if you can't confess your high times and your low times and in between times to the Lord and really have a connection, when life takes you out the deep waters, and there's nowhere else you could turn, you can only depend on the Most High. He'll show you that. He'll show you that.
Yes, sir.
And that's how we heal, right? Of course, I would recommend therapy, but to me, you cannot fully heal without Yahweh Shai's presence. Sorry, without the Most High's presence, it's impossible. A therapist can do their job, and you will get to a certain place. They're professional, not without the Most High. I'm sorry. Not without the Most High. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not. No, you're not going. You're not going all the way through without him. And then we ask ourselves, why are we perpetuating this cycle all the time? Why am I attracting the same things all the time? It's because you have not healed. That's why. And you're afraid to do it. I remember talking on the phone with a brother, and I had no words for him because we didn't have some deep builds. And I had to leave him alone. He said, it's too painful to go back. I couldn't say nothing. He said, it's too painful. This was an older brother. It's too painful for him to face his childhood trauma. You know, and he's no longer with us. You get to a point where your spirit is demanding more of you. Right? Your spirit, who you are, you have to stop suppressing that. And you wonderful sisters, your value, right? You get devalued, you get stomped, you get tossed, you get all these things happen to you from the world. It's time that you free yourself from these things. Seek counsel. Go to therapy if you have to. Pray to the Lord. That's what it all starts with. But mainly be aware. Be aware. Women have been prostituted. Women have been damaged. Women have been going through psychological trauma. I only talked about abandonment issues. Like I said, women have been molested. Me and my rib, we watched the R. Kelly family tapes. At the end of the docu-series, a statistic came out. I could not believe it. I couldn't. Like, my heart would not allow me to bear what this said. It said that over 50% of children, over 50%, this is in the United States. This is why it's still tough for me to say. It's like over 50% of children are sexually abused by their father. Do you know how many people in the United States of America? About 600 million people. They're saying half of that hurt, like that. I can't.
That's crazy.
That's wild. This is our condition. This is what our sisters are going through. Everybody's in a season where I encourage them to heal, but our sisters, you're much more valuable than you think you are. We cannot have a nation without you. You're extremely important. Extremely important. Right? So when let me say this real fast, right? So moving on. Is there any questions? Well, I'll move on. So when the Most High, I got this. I was listening to somebody and he said something so profound. He said, when the Most High decided to create the universe is when he destroyed the impossible. I'm gonna say that one more time. He said, when the Most High decided to create the universe is when he destroyed the impossible. I'm gonna give you an example. What does the earth hang on? The earth hangs on absolutely nothing. Do you know scientists are still trying to figure that out till this day? He created something literally out of nothing. And the beautiful thing is he bound everything by time. Do you know he lives outside of time?
That blows your mind.
That blows your mind. You're supposed to look at the Lord's creation and know him by his works. Every single thing that the Lord made glorifies him. He's glorified in. Why is that important? Because we went through the trauma, right? Historically, what's going on to our women. We went through what our women is going through as far as, we're just touching on certain things, as far as the whoredom and the adultery, right? We just tackled one issue of mental health, which was what? Attachment issues and abandonment issues. But there's chronic depression our women face nowadays. Chronic depression, PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? Anxiety. That's a real thing. Then you have bipolar. You have then you have manic. All these things that our woman is facing due to what? Childhood traumas. Eating disorders, anorexia. All these things that's going on. Attachment issues. Now, hopefully by the end of this lesson, everything will come to fruition. There's a reason why I said the Lord destroyed the impossible. Right? There's a reason why I brought that quote up. Yes, Sirach 42 and 15. And get 1 Corinthians 11 and 6.
This is Sirach chapter 42 and verse 15. I will now remember the works of the Lord.
I will now what?
Remember the works of the Lord.
Go ahead.
And declare the things that I have seen. The words of the Lord are his works. The sun that giveth light looketh upon all things.
Now, the sun is remarkable, right? The sun is remarkable. The sun is responsible. Do you know that I believe it's centimeters or inches, but I think it's like 6 inches or six inches back, 6 inches forward. I can't remember exactly what it was, but just the hair closer to the sun, to the earth, it'll melt everything on the earth. Just the hair away from the earth, everything will be iced. It's in the perfect place so that the earth doesn't get frozen or melted. Not only that, every single cell in your body requires sunlight. Go ahead. And there's some facts I want to throw out. Go ahead.
And the work thereof is full of the glory of the Lord.
And the work thereof, hold it. Remember this, is full of the glory thereof. Go ahead.
The Lord hath not given power to the saints to declare all his marvelous works.
Right, because there's still things that are hidden from us. Right, go ahead.
Which the Almighty Lord firmly settled, that whatsoever is might be established for his glory.
Right. So the creation that is hidden and that is seen, that he firmly settled, glorifies him. Is everybody following me so far? Because this is important. I hear nothing. Is everybody following me online? Can I get a con? Okay. All right. Are people still with me? Okay, then. All right. Continue.
He seeketh out the deep and the heart, considereth their crafty devices.
Jump to 22.
Verse 22. Oh, how desirable are all his works.
Oh, how desirable are all his works. Go ahead.
And that a man may see even to a spark.
Go ahead.
All these things live and remain forever for all uses, and they are all obedient.
So everything that you see lives and remains forever, even humans. How? Don't we live generation after generation after generation? Isn't that part of the Lord's creation? Right? Go ahead.
All things are double one against another.
Aha. All things are double one against the other. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're against each other, but it means that they're opposites, right? Summer, winter, spring, fall, right? You have lions, and then you have the gazelle. You have tigers, then you have the deer, right? Predator, prey, right? Y'all following me? You have the man, and you have the woman. I'm going somewhere.
I see it. Come.
Go ahead. It's coming here, right?
And he hath made nothing imperfect.
And he had made what?
He hath made nothing imperfect.
He had made nothing imperfect. Go ahead.
One thing establisheth the good of another.
One thing establisheth the good of another. I want you guys to hold that and meditate on that. One thing establishes the good of another. Right? So the gazelle, through the way the gazelle is, you can see in how it's opposite from the lion and why the lion preys on it. But at the same time, you can see what you can see. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, go ahead.
Who shall be filled with beholding his glory.
Right. Get that in 1 Corinthians. Light and dark.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 6. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God.
Hold on real fast. Everything that the Most High created, does it not show his glory? Is that not his glory? Isn't the stars, when you look at the stars, his glory?
Absolutely.
The plants,
Absolutely.
the animals, the ocean, right?
All of it.
Okay, cool. So read that part again, that the man is what?
For as much as he is the image and glory of God.
He is the image and glory of the Most High, right? Now, continue reading.
But the woman is the glory of the man.
Real quick. I'm gonna ask a question. Is the woman also a glory of the Most High? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, she is. How do you know that? Is she not above the stars? Is she not above the plants? Is she not above the animals? All the Most High's creation is for his glory and glorifies in him. When it says that a man is the image and glory of the Most High, what is that saying? He is the chief among all his creation. Who's second? The woman. The man is a little bit above the woman. There's the order. We don't need to go over the order. I'm not talking about the order. We understand the order. Right? I'm not going to continue to beat that people over the head or women over the head with the order. We understand the order. I'm bringing light to something different. Now, when the Most High reached and looked inside himself to create man, remember, what did it say? One is a what? Against the other. It just simply means what? Opposites. Did the Most High not reach in to create women inside himself to create women as well? So that means both man and woman are what, sisters? Godly. So stop looking at yourself less than what you are and start valuing yourself who you are actually made to be. You are made to be a princess. You are made to be a woman of God. See, a lot of sisters, they don't value themselves. Because they don't value themselves, the world doesn't value them. When the world doesn't value them, they don't value the man. They don't value the Black, Hispanic, and Latino man. Why? Who does that come from? That comes from the womb of a woman, doesn't it? Y'all see where I'm going here? Women, you got to understand, women are special. But a lot of brothers, they belittle women. They treat women like they're just daughters. They don't look at a wife. They don't look at sisters as godly. Right? A woman is not supposed to walk behind you. Could two be together lest they what? Agree? When you're together with somebody, you're walking side by side with them. Right? And that help me. When you're a help me, you're not just like, you have ideas too. You know how to assist and support. You know, I've been on a construction job. This times I've been on this construction job as foreman, I'm assisting the job. I'm getting the quota done for the day. There's times where I've brought things to the foreman that alter the plan of the day. Because the way that I've seen it was better. So helpers don't have their own ideas too. They don't have wisdom. Just because you've been around like-minded women and you haven't been around heavy women, don't treat all women like they're dumb, like they don't have wisdom. Now, hold on. I will say we could definitely go off. And that's why we're there to, now that's off. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say, they don't set me off, because they do. But my point is that we don't hold them as high as we should. Right? Their roles are more. Go ahead, Ak.
So basically what you're saying is, the woman has a godly perspective of this whole scheme of life.
Yes. 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 They're supposed to rule with you. They're supposed to rule with you. You know what I'm saying? The Lord, through Yahweh Shai, gives you the vision and the plan. But who's helping you executing the plan? Who's helping you modify the plan? Who's bringing you ideas? You got the still blueprint, but who's helping you with that? Who's supporting that? Who's assisting that? It's the woman. And the more you guys can join together and the more you pour into her, the more you trust her. When you trust her, you start leaving her. She knows what to do when you're not even around. Continue.
Verse 8. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man.
Right.
For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. For as the woman is of the man, even so is the man also by the woman, for all things of God.
it says the man is also by. What does that mean? To be by a woman. Next to her. Not in front of her. We know you the leader. But you're by your woman, man. Ruling together, building together. Now, a lot of people don't understand that what the Most High wants to do with women is bring them out of the low conditions that they're in and make them mothers of the kingdom of heaven. I don't think y'all understand. I know everybody's tired. I understand. I get it. But I really want to drive this home. He wants to bring. We've mentioned so much that women have went through. We've watched videos. We went over articles. We went over definitions. He wants to take women from this low estate and make them mothers of the kingdom. That's so heavy. That's so heavy. Don't you understand? The future of a nation is contingent upon who a woman decides to be in her womb. I'm going to say that one time. The future of a nation is contingent upon a woman and who she decides to be in her womb. Because the future, the kingdom, the future comes through the womb of her. That's why. How do you know? It tells you that children are oppressors and women shall rule over them, and women rule over them. It's not these youngins terrorizing the streets, and it's getting worse and worse. Fornication and killing is at an all-time high. Are the fathers in those households? No. They're either independent and have a great career and trying to raise their kids by themselves, or they're either ratchet, fornicating, being a harlot, etc. But when a woman decides to give her life to the Most High and to have a connection with Him, to understand her role and the significance that it is to be a woman, and the importance and the value that the Lord sees in them, to bring them up from the lower state that we're in to the highest state where it's to be by her man's side so they can rule. And when they have that plan together and she's on her healing journey and she decides to have children, those children that she decides to have when she's in a higher estate end up bringing joy to the world, end up being the rulers of the world, end up bringing peace to the world, end up being submissive and obedient to the Most High. Because she's the one educating the children. She's the one teaching the children. She's the one being a home to her husband and to the children. She's the one creating an atmosphere of wellness for her husband and her children. She's the one teaching her children about the Most High. When her husband is pouring into her and she's pouring into him, it's a cyclical thing. That's because she decided to be better than the low that she was. So she sheds off that. She sheds all that off. It's a process, but she sheds all that off. And when she decides to be higher than the low version of herself, look what comes. Beautiful children, filled with wisdom, filled with the fear of the Most High. Because she has to suffer and go through the educations of rearing up children. Not going and being in the world and doing all the things that she used to do.
Absolutely.
Fall into the same cycles of her trauma, fall into the same cycles of her misconduct and her behavior. That's when she decides to be godly, because she is of the glory of the Lord as well. The Lord looked within himself and he made her too. He didn't just make you. Don't you understand, when a woman is pregnant, her and the Lord, they're together. Her body's being pulled on in order to create a child that's growing in her. Heart beats faster. Her blood changes. Women experience carpal tunnel, blackness on the skin, nausea, morning sickness, all to bring suffer for 9 to 10 months, all to bring life. The seed that you planted in her. And I believe that when a woman is pregnant is when they should be the closest to the Most High. When a woman is pregnant, I believe that's when she should be praying more. She should be seeking the Most High more. Because that is a miracle within itself, to be able to bring forth children. You're literally, you are literally blessed with the power of bringing forth the future through your womb. And that's something men can't ever experience. Of course, the living is in us. Of course, we have to see the plants in you. We can talk about semen and sperm all day. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about the significance of a woman's womb and what it takes to develop that child inside of her. And the mindset that she's in when she's bringing forth princesses and princes into this world and into the next world. And don't get it twisted. It's not just pregnancy. Like I said, women are wise. Just because you've been finding light women, that's on you. You should have selected a different partner if that's the case. Straight up. I'll probably put it in the chat. I know it's getting late, but I just want to prove that women are wise. I have some precepts, a few precepts, and just a woman. You know what I'm saying? I have a few more precepts to go, and we'll end class. I'll probably put the article and the video. It was a fascinating video on pregnancy. You know what I'm saying? And the development of pregnancy within a woman, and then the sufferings that they go through, so you can see what they were created for, right? And when they're bringing forth the future, that's to be secure, that's to be protected. You know, a lot of brothers don't know how to be a home to their woman either. You don't know how to secure your woman. It's not just about protecting her, providing her for her. Can your woman honestly come to you and express her true sentiments? Can your woman come to you and express the things that she's really dealing with? Or does she have to go around you? Do you create a safe place for you guys to have communication? Or you set trajectories? Do you have a plan that she can follow you by? A lot of brothers want to be brute. But when you're securing yourself and you submit to the Most High, it's going to be nothing for her to submit to you. Through your consistency, right? Let's get Exodus 35 and 10.
This is Exodus chapter 35 and verse 10. And every wise-hearted among you shall come, make all that the Lord hath commanded.
And every wise-hearted, so this was a Sabbath observance, and there was a like precious stones and different things that the Lord had basically asked all the wise people, men and women, to come and make like make how do you say that, like make things to dedicate to the Most High using these precious things, right? Go ahead.
The tabernacle, his tent, his covering, his taches.
You could jump to 25 and 26.
Verse 25. And all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands.
And all the women that were what?
That were wise-hearted did spin with their hands, and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple, and of scarlet and of fine linen.
Right, because I was there, and that was the woman called all the wise-hearted, men and women, right? And they spun with their hands, right, skillfully, right? And they dedicated what they made to the Most High. Get Proverbs 31. Get Proverbs 31 and 26.
This is Proverbs chapter 31, verse 26. She opened up her mouth with wisdom.
With what?
With wisdom.
Exactly. So stop. The women have the potential to be extremely wise and add unto you. Okay? Stop with going after light women. And if you do, it's nothing for you to teach and pour into your woman. So that way she mirrors you. Right? Is that it on that verse?
And in her tongue is the law of kindness.
And in her tongue is the law of kindness, right? Nobody want to come home from work and hear you ain't, or we want to hear kindness and sweet words when we come home, man.
Absolutely.
After a long day of work, right? Get verse 11.
This is Proverbs 31, verse 11. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil.
Right. The heart of her husband safely trusts in her. Why? Because he's pouring into her. Right? She's a mirror of him. She's a reflection of him. So he knows that when he's not around, she's not going to disrespect him. She knows how to order things. She knows how to keep the house. She knows how to run the house. She knows how to do a bunch of things when he's not around. And when he does come around, shalom.
Shalom.
Because he's everything she wants and more. And then the nature of a woman is to console and comfort. They're nurturers. Right? But women also have independency to them. How you know? Jump to verse 13.
Verse 13. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands.
And worketh what?
Willingly with her hands.
So she works. She'll go to work. She'll go to work and be keeper of the home and all of that. Not like today. If I work, then I'm not coming home to do the dishes and take it. What?
Yeah.
Really? So you're not? Okay. Right. And it's different for everybody. Continue.
She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar.
She bringeth her what?
Her food from afar.
Continue.
She riseth also while it is yet Slakia. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field.
She considereth a what?
She considereth a field, and buyeth it.
And she buys the field. So she understands the blueprint. This is what she's doing without her husband. She knows the vision and the plan, and she's doing things on her own. She's operating. She's doing things for her maidens. She's ordering the house. She's working in the fields. She's going to buy a field, see the field. That's like buying a house because you know that you and your husband is trying to get into real estate. So you're setting up the loan officer. So you're getting appraisals. So you're getting all these things done because you understand the plan of your man. Right? So women are powerful. You know, ask the Lord to show you your purpose. Right? Be aware of the things that's going on inside of you. Your sisters are extremely important. Extremely important. We cannot have this nation without you. Even moving forward, we can't have the nation without you. What's to come? Right? The children's going to come through who? Right. And they're going to be educated by who? Women. Right? It's the peace too that you bring to a man. When you speak life into a man, he wants to go and move mountains. Right? With you and for you. When you're able to console him, when you're able to comfort him. Right? Knowing how to be a home to your family. Right? So that concludes, man, the lesson. You know what I'm saying? I hope that everybody was edified. I know it was a long lesson. You know what I'm saying? I just hope that, you know, everybody was edified. So.
Abadi mpande mako damu. This is Psalm chapter 119. This is God. My soul faitheth for thy salvation, but I hope in thy word. Mine eyes fail for thy word, saying, when wilt thou comfort me? For I become like a bottle with the smoke, yet do I not forget thy statutes. How many are the days of thy servant? When wilt thou execute judgment on them that persecute me? The product dig pits for me, which are not after thy law. All thy commandments are faithful, they persecute me wrongfully, help thou me. They almost consume me upon earth, but I forsook not thy precepts. Quicken me after thy loving kindness, so shall I keep the testimony of thy mouth. In the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Yad, Aman.
Abadjib Shabbat. Amadjib. Barak. Yahweh Shai Barakatah.